interesting their predictions of
this is an old one. You remember when they sent these guys to the Persian Gulf? It was like before the Hamas strike and everything. When is this? September? From September?
August.
Okay. They went, I think they ended up going in September, but like very funny. I've been this one that I've been wanting to see their take on for like a while now. So.
Giorgio Cafaro, who is the CEO of Gulf State Analytics. Giorgio, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be with you guys.
Well, really, really happy to have you. And maybe just explain for our audience, you know, what's going on. I mean, the U.S. is people probably seeing they're deploying some thousands of troops.
What?
Look at how his glasses make him look. I'm dying.
What is like the top of his head is smaller than the bottom of his head?
No, the glasses make his eyes look really big. And it's so off-putting.
Bro, his name is Eugene. You don't get named Eugene without having like severely like nearsightedness. Maybe if he could see, he would stop supporting genocides.
I'm gonna be just so distracted this whole video.
But I think that's probably what most people have seen, just the headline. So, you know, what exactly are they doing, and why are they?
It looks like he's looking both ways while repeating.
Bro, come on, that's not fair.
I'm dying.
They're not even bullying him. That's not nice.
It's because of the standard talking points.
You haven't even heard what he's had to say yet, and you're bullying him.
Fine, I'll give you a chance.
At least claiming they're doing it.
Well, recently there have been
this guy's framing is impeccable. They fixed it. It's better. It's doing that.
Or at least harassing a number of vessels and tankers that's causing disruptions to
all the terrorists use StreamYard.
Concern for the United States. Big concern for many countries, such as those in the Gulf Cooperation Council. And they think the U.S. is trying to sort of flex its military muscles near Iran and to try to establish some sort of deterrence. But I think it's important to see this in kind of a wider context. It's not like the Iranians just woke up
a wider
context. It would be really fun to start harassing vessels. You know, the United States pulled out of the JCPOA in May 2018, imposed unilateral sanctions on Iran.
Question. Hang on. So this dude literally just said, deal? Yeah. So this dude literally was like, it's not like Iran is attacking these ships for no reason. And then said like the JCPOA, like he's using the JCPOA to justify Iran's actions. How do you don't board ships in general, you know?
Yeah. Unless you're
like you can. I mean, go for it. Like I could care less if they do it, honestly.
Yeah.
But
did you see that the Somali pirates have been back at it for like the first time in 14 years?
Yeah, money's tight.
Like that's pretty crazy.
Whereby the U.S. has actually been taking these oil tankers that belong to Iran. Obviously, from Iran's perspective, this is just straight up piracy. I think probably if any other country
from Iran's perspective,
the U.S. is doing, Washington.
Why do we care?
You know, how about reality though?
Think it is.
In reality,
yeah, not so much.
Washington would consider that to be piracy. So this is really sort of a tit for tat situation, and the Iranians have obviously been lashing out, and now the U.S. is definitely sort of ratcheting things up, and I think the stakes are now quite a bit higher, and there's even talk about the U.S. putting armed forces on commercial vessels in regional waters. That's certainly going to elicit some sort of a response from Iran. Definitely a dangerous situation in the Gulf right now.
Or Blackwater.
Yeah, I mean, those are all really good points, and I appreciate that you mentioned that the U.S. has essentially been confiscating Iranian oil, like in a piracy-like manner, and I believe even selling that oil and making.
You mean under sanctions? Is that what we're talking about? How they're getting seized under sanctions? Interesting. Curious.
over, but that's been going on for the last couple of years.
The
and of
United
course,
States.
Hmm?
The United States runs the sanctions.
Yeah.
So it is the United States.
Legal piracy.
Iran has been responding in the way that it has been. But I guess maybe this was naive of me to think, but I had assumed.
I bet it is.
Perhaps the
naive of you to think, you mean get told?
Deal that was brokered by China between Iran and Saudi Arabia would have lessened detentions. I know this is the US we're talking about, but I'm just curious if that deal, having taken place in the backdrop of all this, is playing any sort of role in, I guess, keeping things like at a, not so escalated pace, if that makes sense, in terms of like our US allies in the region.
What you said doesn't make sense. You're like, hey, there's that deal, how Iran, China, and Saudi Arabia came together and they talked a bunch. Does that have anything to do with it? No, Rebecca. I literally forgot her name because she's just giving me Rebecca.
Rania, right?
Rania, yeah. Rebecca.
That works. Rebecca from now on.
Because of that deal, less likely to join in in pushing as hard as the US is right now.
I'm so glad you asked the question because the China.
I bet you are.
Did she ask a question?
Oh my God, the China factor, straight there. I fucking knew it. I called it.
Here. I think that one of the main motivations the Biden administration has for
the Iranian Navy
beefing up the U.S. military presence,
the only ship
in these waters, has to do with
them. That's what they do. All they do is buy speedboats.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. That's
Jesus Christ.
I think it's kind of cool
about the extent.
It is cool. That is very cool, honestly.
Which Saudi Arabia has been moving a lot closer to China. I think the Biden administration is trying to send a message to Riyadh.
It's called selling
China,
oil. Saudi Arabia is selling its oil. It's exporting its main domestic product. Like, oh no, China's buying it. Yeah, what do we say? Just want nobody to sell oil to China or something? That would impact us, that we need their power to exploit their workers to make our goods, right? Why would we not want their oil there? Saudi Arabia is helping us by working with China and selling them oil.
The fair argument.
Is not going to be able to provide security for the kingdom in the ways the U.S. has. The U.S. is just sort of instinctively pro-Saudi, anti-Iranian, which is not the way China conducts its foreign policy. So I think the Biden administration is trying to convince Saudi Arabia that the U.S.
China has different enemies and friends than the United States.
It's almost like
they're a different country.
Hey.
Partner, not one that China can replace. And at the same time, when we're talking about Saudi Arabia and China and also other Arab states in China moving toward doing trade.
Where'd Eugene go? Did they hide Eugene behind a graphic?
I guess he's fixing his glasses.
Chinese technology companies such as Huawei. And
Huawei? Bro, can we go back to that pronunciation? Can we get that pronunciation again one more time?
1 minute.
Saudi Arabia and Chinese technology companies such as Huawei, and also the support that Beijing has given Saudi Arabia when it comes to Saudi Arabia's work on its own ballistic missile program. There are many dimensions to the Saudi-China relationship that the Biden administration is concerned about. I think
I still had my controller. So I moved my basket.
That was a hilarious time
for him to come back in. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, because I was like, "Hey, he's back," and I looked at the screen and I'm like, "Oh, he's gone."
My PlayStation controller turned on.
Further down the road is the possibility. This won't happen anytime soon, but who knows? 10, 15 years down the road, when the Chinese might set up a military base in Saudi Arabia. So I think what the Biden administration is trying to do right now is pull the kingdom.
Yeah, dude. It's totally, bro. Imagine, bro, the conditions that like Saudi Arabia doesn't even let the US fly a flag at that base, right? You think
Really?
China's going to agree to something like that?
Absolutely not. And Saudi Arabia will not back down. They're not afraid of
because they can't.
China.
They literally can't because they will see it as like their radicals will see it as more foreigners in Mecca and Medina.
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. And also, they could frame it with all the
also the Chinese with the Uyghur genocide. A lot of radicals care about that shit.
Well, I wasn't even going to like. It's not even that. Like they're even targeting these small Muslim minority Han Chinese in the southern areas of China. They're toppling mosques and taking off I think it's called minarets at the top.
Yeah, they're like the spire. Oh, the dome. I'm not sure what the dome is called, but the minarets are the spires that are around it.
Yeah, that's what they're taking off. They're taking those off because they're like that's a key to the thing. They're knocking off symbolism, not just to the Uyghurs. Like this is a full elimination of Islam in China. Like that should be something that people are talking about, but nobody is talking about it.
China and send a message to these countries. The U.S. is very committed to their security, and maybe we can talk about this later, but this also fits into the White House's quest to bring Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords and normalize with
what
Israel.
Abraham Accords?
Well, I think
Abraham Accords? The Abraham Accords? Are you fucking kidding me? Jared Kushner up in this bitch, bro. He's literally pushing the Jared Kushner ass narrative about the fucking Abraham Accords, bro.
Send in Jared. J-Man.
And the Abraham Accords are dead. They literally are dead. And also, what does joining the Abraham Accords do? Exactly. Because all it really did for like, from my knowledge, is it made countries who were already on our side say, yeah, we're on your side, and then recognize Western Sahara as Morocco. Wow. Great job, dude. Yeah, dude. You did it.
And that dynamo of energy and excitement, Jared Kushner.
He did it. It's all Jared.
Good segue. Maybe we should talk about it now because I think that's an interesting factor. And of course, this has been, from the Trump administration to the Biden administration, almost an obsession in certainly the Middle East, but also all across Africa, this attempt to create this normalization with Israel. So how does it fit in?
Well, I think Biden really wants to be able to bring Saudi Arabia into the Abraham.
I got that switching down. There must be someone in the background.
This would be seen from Biden's perspective and from his supporters as a huge foreign policy win. So I think, that's obviously, we have to consider sort of the domestic politics in play. But, every single U.S. administration since the founding of Israel would have always welcomed any time in which any Arab country normalizes with Israel. Clearly, the fact that there were 4 Arab states that normalized with Israel during Trump's time in the White House, set a big precedent. The Biden administration wants to build on that and expand the Abraham Accords further. Given Saudi Arabia's important role in the wider Arab and Islamic worlds, it would be so significant for Saudi Arabia to normalize with Tel Aviv. But the thing is that I think we don't have any reason to expect this, especially with this current government in Israel. There are many people in Washington who are rooting for this to happen.
Okay. So
why is the capital not Jerusalem?
Because it's shared by both people.
So wouldn't that be the natural place to make a central capital for the entire people?
If it was a one state, then yeah.
Like that would make sense, right?
Yeah, but making it the capital of Israel kind of sets that back as well.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes this whole conflict even dumber from Israel's side. It's like, well, okay, why not just as a good piece of like a good gesture, right? That could solve all these problems, right? Make just that everybody, citizens, capital Jerusalem. Yeah, seems simple, but I feel like
that's why I say the solution is leave Gaza tomorrow. It's West Bank, the Israeli state, and then a shared city state is Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is like the federal capital where both Confederate sides have to like make concessions.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be like a unified
exactly
budget.
how it would work.
Stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So they're like fully autonomously, but they would have unified economies and things like that.
I mean, that would make some kind of sense. And then there's mutual interest. Nobody's going to kill each other or blow each other up because it hurts everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why Israel doesn't want that, though.
Of course, because they're a fascist genocidal state. Fuck those guys. But if hypothetically all these fascists in the Israeli government were killed and a new generation came in, right? And they're like, well, you know what? Fuck it, we're doing this. What do you reckon the response would be? Dead air.
I don't think. First of all, Bibi has been there for a century. You know, he's been a dictator in Israel. He's had power in Israel for far too long. Post Bibi era truly needs to come, and then we'll see what can happen from there. And hopefully, this war will make him fall from power. Anyway, I was looking at the Abraham Accords, right? So, Sudan normalizing with Israel seems like the most important one. But then also in here on the wiki, it says Sudanese prime minister said that Sudan did not want to link its removal from a U.S. terrorism list with normalizing relations with Israel as asked for by the U.S.
That's hilarious. That's genuinely funny.
So, yeah.
Telling us that Saudi Arabia...
They literally helped them cover up the Darfur genocide, basically.
Send in Jared.
Great job, Jared.
Arabia is on the verge of normalizing with Israel. But if you listen to what the Saudi leadership actually says, they've been very clear that they would not make that move unless Israel makes some very serious concessions to the Palestinians. And given this extremely right-wing fanatical government in Israel, that's just simply not on the table. Maybe Saudi Arabia would normalize with Israel down the line, but again, with this current Israeli government, I think we can forget about it.
Yeah, that's
and now
really
the narrative is that
Hamas
did this to prevent Saudi from normalizing with Israel.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Seems ridiculous.
Ask you about too with relation to Iran in the region. Giorgio, is this you did recently write about this, and that's this regional diplomacy taking place between the UAE and Iran about a dispute over islands that has been ongoing for decades. But the reason I think it's also relevant to everything else you're discussing is the role of Russia and China in trying to
act as that propaganda in.
Can you talk about the significance of what's taking place there? And I think this again speaks to this increasing mediation role that we're seeing in this increasingly multipolar world, which you and I discussed on my show last month, I think it was, about the role of Russia and particularly China in the region.
Well, she is finally right.
Yeah,
right? For once, they said it right. Increasingly multipolar is accurate.
Yes.
It's already multipolar is the key.
Exactly.
Just in case some of your viewers might not be familiar with this dispute, since the 1970s, really since the beginning of the UAE's independence, bringing us back to 1971, there's a territorial dispute between UAE and Iran. It's over these three islands in the Gulf. The Iranian position is that these islands are absolutely 100% Iranian.
This is all nonsense.
That
everything that he's saying until he actually makes his point is complete nonsense. So I'm just going to talk over him so that nobody can hear
arguing over islands.
Iranians have asserted their control.
Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, this is just the precedent that they need to set up their point. They all do it.
Gulf military buildup. Oh, also, isn't there a war that could break out at any time between Iran trying to get these islands and the U.S. is trying to prevent Iran from getting their islands? Is that what we're going with here? Who cares? Oh my God. Let's talk about every fucking border dispute out there like it's going to end the fucking world. Yeah, Bahrain.
Like, there's so many island disputes.
Bahrain, the UAE, definitely the ones I'm looking at to be world enders.
over the islands as a way of sort of whipping up nationalism in Iran. And from the Iranian perspective, the West puts a lot of pressure on the UAE to push on this issue in international forums as a way to sort of intensify pressure on Iran. What happened in December was the Chinese president came to Saudi Arabia, and there was a joint statement between the GCC and China, in which the the statement
when we
called
reported on
for a
this
diplomatic settlement to this territorial dispute.
Sorry, what?
Remember when we were reporting on this and talking about how it was a good thing?
Yeah, I do. Hilarious. And now it's all doom and gloom. War's coming. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, I mean, that's why I wanted to look at this at the time. But
Yeah,
there's no world where this wouldn't be funny.
It's been great. So good. It's hitting all the talking points.
That completely unacceptable, viewing that as a challenge to
I get an
Iran's
extra
territorial integrity. Iran summoned the Chinese ambassador to Tehran. Then just last month, Russia put out a joint statement with the GCC, which basically said the same thing. And Iran responded by summoning the Russian ambassador to Tehran. What I think is going on is China and Russia are really trying to conduct balanced foreign policies in the Gulf region. They want to have good relations with Iran, but also have good relations with GCC countries. So this has created a little bit of a challenge for China and Russia. I think some people in Washington.
What? Remember how at the intro I mentioned Venezuela and all the analysts and conflict nerds are freaking out about Venezuela potentially going and invading this country now.
Yes, I did hear about that. What's happening there?
Oh, so basically Venezuela they want to take more than half of the country, but if you draw a line down it, it's like a clear line segmented to Venezuela that they Denmark is about to invade Canada concerning that too. But yeah, I was just looking at Twitter and this Gravity's Rainbow is just like, no, don't try to create the United States of South America. Hillary Clinton is going to write an email. Let's see. Votes to incorporate disputed territory. This is not a good source. Also, BNO News, weird. I mean, I think they're based out of India, but there's weird credentials behind them and all that shit. You can't find out source. It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
Possibly exaggerated the extent to which those joint statements caused friction between Iran and Russia, and also Iran and China. But from the UAE's perspective, at least, they saw this as very good, that two very significant global powers were putting some degree of pressure on Iran to at least come and negotiate some sort of a diplomatic settlement to this islands dispute. And I'll also just add that earlier this month, the IRGC kicked off these military drills off of one of the island's coasts, this island being Abu Musa, and it was sort of Iran's way of sending a message to GCC states that despite this trend toward renormalization, despite the Iranian-Saudi agreement from March, and despite the fact that
because the IRGC and the state are separate.
You're back to Iran last.
Is that what it is?
Might be.
I mean, they're technically not, but they are as well.
They're autonomous. Is probably
but the same way China is autonomous in those regions.
Yeah. Here, Iran is not going to budge when it comes to defending territory that the Iranian government sees as 100% Iranian.
Well, interesting backdrop to the whole thing, especially when you think, these U.S. ships, the Bataan and the Carter Hall, an amphibious assault ship and a dock landing ship, exactly what you might need if you wanted to make someone think you might invade an island and take it over. But I guess there's sort of a deeper underlying aspect of all of this is whether these military buildups that are framed as security are really that. I mean, it seems the
Eugene,
U.S. has
question. Question: did this not open with you talking about how Iran is seizing ships?
Privacy.
Sounds like
for some time.
Sounds like security to me. Sounds like that's what you do to you said. Hey, there's a lot of ships being taken over in what area? Oh, what do? Oh, we send security out there. Oh, what do you mean?
Yeah.
They're responding to a actual force that's taking ships? Crazy. Who? I can't believe the evil American Empire is doing this again.
They've been claiming they're countering Iran, but Iran doesn't seem terribly deterred by that. In fact, it seems to be that this kind of tit for tat just drives kind of an arms race mentality, which doesn't, I mean, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, okay, arms race. Yeah, so yeah, dude. Yeah, okay. Your fucking drones are run by our fucking school's laptops that got thrown away 10 years ago. Are you fucking kidding me? Fucking Dell laptop computer ass processor chips on those drones? Yeah, dude. They're definitely in an arms race with the United States.
It feels like there's also kind of like a logical perspective here.
Oh my God, look at the banner.
U.S. escalates in Persian Gulf. Yes.
Oh
yes.
my God.
Responses and escalation.
They're so shit.
The idea that's presented, from the United States point of view is more troops, more sailors, more soldiers, whatever, the more likely the other side will back down. But it seems like that's not really how the other side is reacting.
I clicked my fourth mouse button, pulling my mouse cord out from underneath my keyboard.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just recently, Iranian state media announced that the country now has technology for supersonic cruise missiles that travel at the speed of at least Mach 1, and Iran has never had that.
Supersonic. America's approaching hypersonic.
Well, I mean, they have hypersonics. The thing is that like the hypersonic specifically that's being pursued is like a specific kind. I'm not a fucking missile expert, but like Mike Black on Twitter, he's talked extensively about how journalists can't write about these drones or hypersonic missiles because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because they always frame it like the US doesn't have hypersonics, but China is doing this hypersonic thing, but it's not even like anywhere close to what we're doing. Do you know about the SLAM missile?
No.
This missile is fucking insane. So like the United States R&D during the Cold War would develop shit and then just shelve it.
Yeah, I know.
Because they didn't want to trigger an arms race with the Soviets, right?
Mm-hmm.
This missile is fucking insane. This is definitely like a doomsday weapon. It's okay, so it's a supersonic low altitude missile. Nuclear weapons, so it's unmanned nuclear powered ramjets capable of delivering thermonuclear warheads deep into enemy territory. So it's it's literally like a locomotive engine. Like the engine is huge that they're showing. Look at this shit.
Jesus Christ. That's awesome.
But like, so like everything,
how small missiles are.
Because it's nuclear, it's like a nuclear powered ramjet, it irradiates everything that it flies over, right?
Oh my God.
And it's able to deploy multiple nuclear warheads from its delivery system.
That is insane. Fucking hell. And they're worried about China and a hypersonic missile.
This doesn't exist though. They just know that they did the test to succeed, knowing that yes, we can make this.
Interesting.
And that was a long time ago.
Awesome.
1950s.
Canceled
in 1960s.
China's real close to catching up to America. Yeah, guys. Yeah.
But the standoff land attack missile, this one too, this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the new. It's also the SLAM, but they don't, not to be confused. I think this one can also be nuclear tipped. There's like most of the like they have like they can be
air
like
to ground. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
There's like a cruise missile that they can also like that I know planes carry. I thought it was also called the Slam.
Military technology before. How soon the Iranian military will have those missiles, I don't know. But what this tells us is that Iran is not backing down. And going back to what happened with the Trump administration, pulling out of the JCPOA and then imposing maximum pressure, the thought was that these sanctions and this pressure and this intimidation.
It's weird that they always want to say JCPOA. Just say nuclear deal.
Yeah,
like your audience doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, and unless you like don't touch grass, you really won't know what that is.
Yeah, and these are
all the news just Iran nuclear deal is all it was ever called.
And like the way I look at like PSL and Breakthrough News, like they really are hitting the casual people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To come down on its knees. That definitely hasn't happened. You know, Iran has continued to, engage in its sort of ballistic missile activity. It's still supporting groups in the region that the U.S., Israel, and some other regional states view as terrorist organizations. The Iranian nuclear program continues to advance. So I certainly agree that maximum pressure has not achieved its goals. And I think that the Arab countries in the Gulf realized that maximum pressure did not make them any safer. They weren't any more secure because of the Trump administration's policies toward Iran, which quite frankly, the Biden administration has in many ways continued. And so while the US is further militarizing regional waters, this kind of goes against this trend we're seeing whereby the Saudis, the Emiratis, and others in the region are trying to reconcile with Iran and sort of lower the temperatures. They see their security being advanced through more diplomacy. And this really, says that they're pursuing an agenda that's kind of going against what the Biden administration seems to be doing in the Gulf.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, one.
Yeah,
the scrolling thing is wild. What they picked to put on there.
I didn't see.
Thing I would just want to I know we're wrapping here, but one last thing I just want to ask you about is, as we unfortunately have another presidential election season upon us.
I really want to see her carry a show by herself, like without like any guests around or anything.
There's no chance. She'd start talking like a valley girl.
Did we watch her talk to Abby Martin? How was that?
It was just a bunch of fangirling. It was really bad.
Oh, she was just sucking Abby's dick?
Like, no, both of them were doing the same thing.
Oh, okay.
It literally opened with, "Oh, I'm your biggest fan. Oh, me too." it was I think we stopped halfway through.
We watched it?
Yeah.
It does seem like when it comes to Iran, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, it is
at
done.
times. It does to some degree, right? You had the JCPOA under Obama, but under Biden, like you just said, the policy of Trump has continued. So what, like, can we expect if we have a change in presidency, or if we don't? Does this policy, do you think, remain the same, or will there be a difference? Are we more likely to have a war under one party versus another?
What?
I think probably a Republican would be a little more.
Duma. Jesus Christ.
He's literally, this guy's not, he's literally, a Republican would probably be worse, is literally what he's saying.
Yeah.
I think
hawkish and more aggressive toward Iran. We, did point out that many of the fundamental aspects of Trump's Iran policies have stayed in place under Biden, but there has been some degree of diplomatic engagement, some concessions. I think Biden has been a little softer on Iran than Trump. And I would think probably a Republican would be much more aggressive, not only in policies, but also sort of tone. And I think probably this is something
back
to
the revolution. Really if I'd vote for Trump if he backed a revolution in Iran, honestly. That's literally all it would take to secure my vote for anyone.
There's a hot take.
Anyone. I'll vote for anyone who will back the revolution in Iran.
That's fair. All right, what do we want to watch next? Sam Seder, Mehdi Hasan, Steven Crowder, or Vaush?
Yeah, well, that Mehdi Hasan video.
Mm-hmm. This one.
The one that he allegedly got fired over.
Joining me now, Mark Regev, senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He was previously Israel's ambassador to the United Kingdom. Mark Regev, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Let's start with the tragic situation.
Israel's ambassador. God damn. Like, think about how bad our ambassadors to Israel are. Imagine their ambassadors to other places.
Mossad got Mehdi.
Pleasure to have you on. Let's start with the tragic situation of the hostages. Hostage taking, a clear war crime by Hamas, and those hostages, of course, need to be released. Are we any closer to the release of any more hostages?
We surely hope so. You know,
do you see all the weird shit about the one hostage?
No.
Like, because she has like this face, like a weird face, and they're like, "Oh, I want somebody to look at me like that," and they're like fetishizing it, like she fell in love and like had, like, yeah, the girl literally was shot and dying. Right?
Seriously.
Yeah, and then I was laughing because Israel's propaganda countering. They said that like they had to use a veterinarian to treat her because they don't view Jews as humans, and it's like, bro, shut the fuck up. I wonder why they had. You think they couldn't bring their hostages to the regular hospital even though they're fucking Hamas? Like, come on, you fucking idiots. Literally, like, awful. You could have done your propaganda around how like rendering care is the bare minimum, and they couldn't even provide that. You know, instead you're like doing this weird.
That's a good way. Yeah. That's very strange. That's very odd.
Like that's the issue with propaganda. It's not rational. It never can be, because it's done by irrational nationalists. You have to be romanticized.
True. It's very true.
Has kidnapped some 240 people. Unfortunately, today we found the body near the Shifa hospital of one of the hostages, a woman.
Is it me, or does this guy just exist in lower quality? You know, if you saw him in person, it would be like a lower quality image, you know?
480p.
Right?
Just a barely capable internet signal.
He looks like, you know, the guy who does Portlandia? Like Fred Armiston. He's also the go right through jail Venezuela guy.
Yes. It looks exactly like him.
Yeah, it's like 480p cable television Fred.
That's funny as.
Name is Yehudit Weiss. She was 65 years old, a mother of 5. And so she's no longer a hostage. She was dead. The information we have is when she was taken into captivity, when she was abducted by Hamas, she was alive. We've now found her body. It was one of the results of the military operation today. Of course, getting the hostages out remains one of the focal points of our military operation. And we
sounded like it.
It sure sounded like it.
That by expediting the military pressure on Hamas, we're actually getting closer to the release of hostages.
So was it a mistake in hindsight, and that's tragic news to hear about this poor woman, was it a mistake for Prime Minister Netanyahu, your boss, to have reportedly turned down a deal at the start of this conflict that would have seen Hamas free women, the elderly, kids, in exchange for a 5-day ceasefire? Isn't that why so many of the families of the hostages are angry with your government?
Sorry, Mehdi, that's just disinformation. There was not a real option.
Oh my God!
For a deal before the ground operation. It was looked at seriously, but Hamas put nothing on the table that could be worked with. And so that's just not correct to say there was an option. We might have an option now for a deal. I can't tell you for sure.
See, that's the thing. I don't know. You know, with the way wars start, you know, it's like the United States offering to buy Mexico, being like, well, we gave you a fair offer. Now you said no.
Yeah.
So if Hamas was advancing the deal, it was like the political side of Hamas is much different than the militant side, you know? So like the thing is that from me, especially Ukraine, all this stuff. When I hear talk about like, oh, that could have been ended 5 days in, bullshit. Like immediately goes in the trash for me. Like unless somebody can really show me evidence that like it like really, really, really could have happened. But I also don't put it past Israel to just be like, nah, we're gonna continue slaughtering you. And we're gonna go into Gaza. Like our plan is to go into Gaza. We don't care about the hostages. I can fully see them
within the
turning
bounds
it
of
down.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Military pressure on Hamas is maybe making Hamas understand that if they want a temporary ceasefire, they need to release hostages. Without that, we're not going to have a temporary ceasefire. So we're hitting Hamas hard, and maybe the military pressure.
Oh, so you know what it was? You know what it probably was? The same deal. So the same deal where they literally released like Palestinian prisoners that are held extrajudicially without charge. Many.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So like Israel's a everyday Guantanamo for Palestinians. It's just the law there. That's just how it works in their country.
Because you're saying that they do torture and stress techniques and shit, right?
Yep. They'll do waterboarding and stuff. I've seen it before. I've seen training videos of them training people to do it. I haven't seen it actually.
And these are the people.
I've never seen like actual torture besides like Wagner execution stuff. Not like and then also there's the photos from Abu Ghraib.
Yeah.
And
it's like these are the same people that are supposed to be training at the
police
thing
the standard arrest that we do here is a stress position technically.
Yeah. So definitely the people you want training your cops, right?
I was watching Germany.
In a society that's already aggressive.
They do this weird stress hold where they two guys pick you up by your wrist and like bend your wrists inward so your like wrists are breaking.
That is weird.
And they pick you up by your wrist to make sure like you're like in too much pain to like resist. They do it to like protesters who are sitting on the sidewalk and shit,
Very
That's
cool.
They do it.
Very German. Really, really honing the roots.
Yeah.
Just look, we can't expect them to release hostages because they're suddenly going to become humanitarians, right, Mehdi? They're obviously not. They're brutal, vicious terrorists, and they'll only release hostages when they're they'll only release hostages when they're forced to do so.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the military pressure. We are nearly 6 weeks into this bombing campaign and ground invasion. The Gaza Health Ministry says Israel has killed more than 11,000 people in Gaza, including
the Hamas controlled.
Let me finish.
Huh?
Nothing. We're getting it. Anytime you bring up casualty numbers, this is why I try to avoid bringing it up in most conversations.
Because it gets hated, does it?
No, just everyone has their own numbers and facts.
Right. Okay.
Finish my question.
No, but you can't say that. No, but you said you have to say the Hamas controls.
Yes, he can. He can say whatever he wants, bro. It's his show.
Look at how they're so used to controlling the conversation that they will try any time. They're just like, no, you can't say that. And it's like, fuck you.
More than 4,000.
What a joke. That's true. You don't deny that, Mehdi. You don't deny that it's the Hamas controlled.
I'm not
and
denying.
the health ministry is controlled by Hamas.
Let me finish my question.
But please tell the viewers the truth. That information is provided by Hamas.
Okay, and that information will come.
Who cares, bro?
He said it was the Hamas
crazy
thing.
Like who
cares?
It
was the Hamas information. He said that. He literally said that.
Israel recognizes Hamas as a political entity.
It's so insane.
They literally, you recognize their government.
It's a joke.
That's that information, but you've got dead Gazans. The American government say maybe more than 11,000. You've got a record number of journalists killed, according to the CPJ, a record number of UN workers killed, according to the UN, and yet Hamas still exists. It's still capable of firing rockets into Israel, still has the hostages.
Yeah.
You haven't found their big base under the Shifa hospital either. Your critics say that shows this war is a failure.
I would argue that's all incorrect, Mehdi. We're hitting Hamas hard and they're feeling the pain. We just discussed that a moment ago. Why are they maybe now considering seriously a hostage release? It's not because, as I said, they've become humanitarians. It's because they're under a very, very massive military pressure.
This is disgusting.
It's because you're running out of bombs and you had to reload, bro. We know what ceasefires are. So somebody joked. It was the two guys talking history. He said, ceasefire is an old Roman word for reloading.
Is not one that we wanted, obviously. This war was forced upon Israel in the terrible attack of October 7th, and we are fighting back, and we will destroy Hamas. We'll dismantle their military machine, and we'll take apart their political control of Gaza.
Obama.
That's good for Israel for obvious reasons.
No, I got to show you this great
Obama crossing the border.
Keep going. I've got to look it up.
And killing our people, butchering our children in the middle of the night. But it's ultimately also good, and I hope you agree with me, it'll be good for the people of Gaza who deserve better than this terrible authoritarian extreme.
I said it doesn't look like he agrees.
Hamas regime.
The people of Gaza who are still alive, as I say, more than 11,000 people reported dead, 4,000 children. I just want to pull up on the screen.
Hamas's numbers.
Oh my God, shut up.
You say Hamas's numbers. I should point out, just pull up on the screen. In the last two major Gaza conflicts,
okay, I found it, but it's really quiet. It's really quiet. I found the video, but it's super quiet. So everyone, turn your little speakies up for 7 seconds here. Oh, hang on, I didn't switch to it. This is like one of my favorite Obama moments, and now I can blast it in a soundbite now.
And we will take them. We will kill bin Laden. We will crush Al Qaeda. That has to be our biggest national security priority.
Yeah, that's totally him, right?
The Israeli military's death tolls matched Hamas's health.
You got a question?
Yeah, it was a joke. I immediately said after that, it's like how China has autonomous regions.
Ministry death toll. So, and the UN human rights groups all agree that those numbers are credible. But look, your wider point is true.
Can I challenge that? Will you allow me to challenge that, please? Can I
challenge
that? I'll try to be as brief.
Literal child mind.
Those numbers are provided by Hamas. There's no independent verification. And secondly,
oh my God, shut the fuck up.
You have no idea how many of them are Hamas terrorists, combatants, and how many are civilians. Hamas would have you believe that they're all civilians, that they're all children. And here we have to say something that isn't said enough. Hamas, until now, we're destroying their military machine, and with that, we're eroding their control. But up until now, they've been in control of the Gaza Strip. And as a result, they control all the images coming out of Gaza. Have you seen one picture of a single dead Hamas terrorist in the fighting in Gaza?
You know what I have seen? Dead journalists shot by Israeli soldiers.
How come you guys haven't posted any dead Hamas terrorists?
Very, very interesting.
Not one. Is that by accident, or is that because Hamas can control? Hamas can control the information.
You asked me a question and you
Gaza.
said you would be brief. I haven't, you're right, but I have seen lots of children with my own lying eyes being pulled from the rubble.
Because they're the pictures Hamas wants you to see. Exactly my point.
Yeah,
because they're dead children.
Dead kids. Yeah, dead kids. They're still dead kids, you fucking piece of shit. The fuck? What point are you trying to make? Jesus fucking Christ. What a psycho. This? Is every Israeli diplomat like this?
Right now, yeah, it's been like this for a while.
This is insane. This is psychotic.
Dead, they're the pictures Hamas wants.
But there are also people your government has killed. You accept that, right? You've killed children, or do you deny that?
No, I do not. I do not. First of all, you don't know how those people died. Those children.
Oh, wow.
First of all, we don't want to say.
Oh, wow.
Okay. This is insane. Yeah, they're getting pulled out of rubble resulting from bombs dropped by Israeli planes.
Wow.
We don't know. We don't know how they died. That's an insane statement. Holy shit.
They are crisis babies. They're crisis dead babies. They were placed there. Hamas killed them and they were placed there.
Yeah, they took the rubble apart, put the dead babies there, put the rubble back on.
Dude, this is some shit that they would say about fucking the white helmets in Syria and stuff. Like, I'd fucking film this shit and then they would say I was lying. They just wound up dead. Yeah, like, it's not the bomb that killed him, it's the building that fell on top of him. And they're like, well, we fucking double tap to warn them, we shoot an illumination shell first to warn them that their life is about to end and they should run. So because we fired a warning shot, it justifies us murdering children. That's literally what they believe, by the way.
No, I know. It's insane. What were you saying about the white helmets? That they were saying what?
Oh, so we would film the white helmets doing rescue, like because barrel bombs would get dropped and take out an entire block, right? Because there was barrel bombs that big that would take out entire blocks and shit.
That's crazy.
So like they were going in and they would go in and we would film them, or like everyone would show up, right? You know, Assad could bomb again too. You know, you never know with him. Kill all the foreign journalists and stuff there too. But instead, they just take the images and say that all these people are planted, and that it was orchestrated by the terrorists to make Syria look bad, right? And that because like Assad will tell you barrel bombs aren't real.
Definitely
What is
heard
a barrel
that
bomb? That sounds ridiculous. What do you mean, a barrel? Who would drop a barrel full of explosives? That's just a ridiculous thing. How could you say that?
What am I, Donkey Kong? But yeah, no, it's I've heard that before. It's quite common, I think. That are quite a lot. Not recently though, surprisingly.
They're no different. They're all the same.
Yeah.
The nature of state.
I agree with you. I agree with you. We shouldn't blindly believe anything Hamas says. But why should we believe what your government says either? Your military spokesman on Monday pointed to an Arabic document in the basement of a Gaza
This is so funny. Did you see this shit?
On which every terror.
Did you see this shit?
No, I didn't. No.
So, like, I've talked about it before that Hamas is like organized. Like we've seen intelligence where it was like hour sheets, you know, clock in guard sheets and stuff. So they tried to say this was shift sheets, and it's a fucking handwritten calendar.
That is hilarious.
So they're saying like they were signing in shifts and patrolling.
That's so funny.
Name, but that was false. It was just a calendar with the days of the week on it. Your colleague in the Prime Minister's office, Ophir Gendelman, posted behind-the-scenes footage from a Lebanese short film and claimed it was Palestinians
I saw this one.
faking their own injuries. That tweet is still up a week later. That is endless disinformation from your government, is it not?
I disagree, and I think on the important issues. Look,
of course he
I'll give
does.
An example, Mehdi.
No,
Originally, we estimated.
No,
answer your question.
Pull him
Allow
up.
me to
Stop
answer your
him.
question. I'm answering your
Dude,
question.
He's literally screaming over him like a petulant child.
Look at Mehdi's face.
Literal child brain.
Literal, like the pause frame of Mehdi's face says it all.
Directly, if you'll allow me.
Look at him. He's holding it in so hard. Did you see the smirk?
Yeah, he's doing so well. He must blow up. He must really go off. If this is what got him fired, he must go off.
Well, we don't know if it got him fired. It might have been something they were releasing him anyway. His contract might have been up. I don't know.
Maybe,
I haven't looked into it. I just put it as the drama title.
Right.
Atrocious Hamas attack on our people. On October 7th, we had the number at 1,400 casualties. And now we've revised that down to 1,200 because we understood that we had overestimated. We made a mistake. There were actually bodies that were so badly burnt, we thought they were ours. In the end, apparently, they were Hamas terrorists. When we make a mistake, we admit it.
Short on time.
Why does that give you permission? Why does that give you permission to accept Hamas's numbers? I don't understand.
I didn't ask about Hamas numbers. I said to you that your military.
No, but you were quoting to me before Hamas numbers, Mehdi. You were quoting to me Hamas's numbers.
Because the entire UN and the human rights community and the American intelligence community on Friday said they trust those numbers. But you're dodging my question, Mark.
I'm not sure that's true.
Why did your military spokesman on Monday point to a calendar in Arabic and say these are the names of terrorists on them? That's false. Can you accept that here and now?
I'm not aware of the incident.
Let's put up the image. We have the image. You have no comment.
I can read Arabic. It doesn't help me. I have no comment. I'm not familiar with the incident.
Does your spokesman
hang on, I have a question, Mehdi. You're a journalist. Have you made a professional mistake ever? Not intentionally, but have you made a professional mistake?
Exactly, and I own it.
This is pathetic. This is actually pathetic. To see this from what, a 50-year-old man? This is pathetic. This is appalling. You should retire and leave and never come back. Ever. All of you, actually. Fucking stop it. Just stop it. Go home. Please.
You're still here.
For the love of God.
It's over.
For the love of God, just fuck off.
Have you made a mistake?
So can
you own up to the mistake?
So if I've made mistakes, you've made mistakes.
Hi, do you want to know how to fix this?
Between making an honest mistake and between Hamas that deliberately exaggerates numbers to suit its propaganda purposes. There's a huge difference.
So it sounds like
it's like
so hold on. You said propaganda. Can we just deal with your colleague Ophir Gendelman's tweet? It's still up 7 days later. Why has it not come down? It's a Lebanese short film. We can put it on screen. It's not Palestinians faking their own injuries. Can we own up to that mistake and take that down? Is that not propaganda?
I disagree, Mehdi.
Once again, I understand that was also a mistake. And
so why is it still up 7
I'll
days
speak
later?
to Ophir about it if you like. I'll speak to Ophir about it if you like. He's a friend of mine and a colleague. I quite like him. He's a good man. He's actually very effective. Why is he effective?
Well,
he speaks mother tongue level Arabic. I agree. He made a mistake, but let's be clear. It's very good that we have someone who can speak Arabic in the Arab networks directly to Arab people, so they can hear Israeli opinions directly.
Appreciate that.
Is amazing at that. He's very important.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I know you're short on time, much more short than me, so I'm going to keep going. Let's talk about war crimes. Human rights groups, as well as the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, have accused Hamas of committing war crimes. But they've also accused Israel of war crimes in Gaza too, which you blame on Hamas. So I have a simple question for you. If Hamas gunmen were hiding out in a school in Tel Aviv or an apartment block in Haifa, would you be okay with the Israeli Air Force dropping bombs on those buildings, leveling them, killing the innocent Israelis inside in order to get the Hamas gunmen? Would you do that?
But you're right in your question. Of course, Hamas hides behind students and
dodge the question.
The whole policy. That's why we've had the casualties we've had. Hamas deliberately embeds itself, as you said in your question, amongst civilians. The fact that they buried themselves under the Shifa hospital in Gaza City, not one hospital, but a whole series of hospitals. They took
with respect,
over
you're not answering
and
my
they turned them into military installations.
Good job, Mehdi.
Would you bomb schools and houses in Israel if Hamas militants were believed to be under them and kill Israeli human shields in the process?
We don't deliberately kill anyone. That's not a fair question. What we are trying to do is eliminate this threat.
Would you accidentally kill Israeli human shields?
I'm
asking a very simple question.
We wouldn't want to accidentally kill anyone. We wouldn't accidentally. No, we wouldn't accidentally want to kill anyone.
Understood.
But can I tell you, when the West fought ISIS, when the West fought ISIS in Fallujah and in Mosul. Also, ISIS used human shields. They actually used a hospital, I believe, in Mosul. You probably know this as well as I do.
I do. And
we've got white phosphorus on it.
But I think it's actually...
Yeah. And notice how Mehdi is still consistent in his opinion.
Who did he say? Mosul? And what was the other city, did he say?
Fallujah.
No.
Yeah.
He didn't say Fallujah, did he?
Yeah, he fucking did.
I thought he said a Syrian city.
No.
Actually,
Israel.
I think he said Raqqa, which is the capital.
We don't deliberately kill anyone. That's not a fair question. What we are trying to do is eliminate this threat.
Would you accidentally kill Israeli human shields? I'm asking a very simple question.
We wouldn't want to accidentally kill anyone. We wouldn't accidentally. No, we wouldn't accidentally want to kill anyone.
Understood.
But can I tell you, when the West fought ISIS, when the West fought ISIS in Fallujah and in Mosul,
he did say
also
Fallujah.
ISIS used human shields. They actually used a hospital, I believe, in Mosul. You probably know this as well as I do.
I do. Did ISIS get to Fallujah?
And the West was...
Huh?
I said, did ISIS get to Fallujah? I guess, okay, if you're counting Zawahiri's group, or Zarqawi, right? If you're counting Zarqawi's group as ISIS back then, before it was even like Al Qaeda in Iraq, then yes.
I mean, that must be what it is then.
There was a second battle.
Or he's just extending the truth. Oh, no shit.
1 month. It only took a month for them to take it. Iraqi army provided air support, and we provided air support.
Crazy.
Fought But I think it's actually, I think America did the right thing. You had to defeat these brutal terrorists.
Would you apply
but you're saying to me,
consistently fascist.
We wouldn't allow them. We wouldn't allow them to take over a school in the first place. We'd send in special forces and we'd take out the terrorists.
Oh yeah, we're spending the frog men.
I did answer your question. I did answer your question.
Okay, the operation actually only took like 3 days, but they put it under a siege for a month.
Oh.
And then, like, they literally, like, it was because, like, Fallujah is just like ISIS thinks that they would be able to, like, fortify it like it was in the Second Battle of Fallujah, I guess, where they got in there. But they only controlled, like, a small part of it, but it's close to the capital. That's the issue. But yeah, they sieged it for a week, and then, like, all the Iraqi forces went in and stormed it.
You said we were allowed to have, I'm saying if it did
happen. Also, not the Americans.
It
was the Iraqi army. We definitely don't hold them to the same standard.
No.
Answer it the way I didn't answer it in the way you wanted me to answer it. That's the problem.
Dude.
I didn't answer it the way you wanted me to answer.
Oh my God.
We would send in special forces and we would neutralize the terrorists. That's what we've done in the past. You know we've done it that way. Yes.
Last question for you. You've got ministers in your government. I have to ask this question. Amichai Eliyahu, who said Israel should consider dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza, which would kill over 2 million people. He's still in your government. Avi Dichter, another member of your government, went on TV and said, this is Gaza Nakba 2023. And your boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, invoked Amalek, which was a biblical call for killing every man, woman, and child. Mark, do you understand why that cannot be heard as anything other than calls for genocide or ethnic cleansing around the world?
Very nice.
So will you allow me to answer?
Of course.
Number one, that minister was reprimanded by the Prime Minister, Eliyahu, and he was told very forthrightly.
Honestly, though, to be an asshole here, the United States government says a lot of shit like that too.
That is
like
true.
The amount of times fucking neocons have talked about nuking places or glassing cities, you know, and killing every Iraqi child and drinking the blood of every
That is very
terrorist,
true.
You know, like in Borat.
That is very true.
You know, Borat when he's giving this speech.
It is very true. That has happened quite a lot. And those people probably should be removed from fucking government.
Yeah, they don't even get reprimanded. So
yeah, that's insane.
But also,
like any sort of statement like that.
I think it's a much different scenario just because of the proximity of the causality.
And the active military invasion. Yeah.
Makes any statements like that again, he's fired. On the Avi Dichter, I think I actually agree with what he said. The Nakba, the tragedy that was brought upon the Palestinians in 1947-48 was because of an extreme irresponsible leadership that wasn't willing to compromise. And Hamas is doing the same thing to Palestinians in Gaza.
Compromise their own ethnic cleansing.
I have no words.
We compromised with some native people here too. We elected some kid who couldn't read to be the chief that we would recognize and make all deals with, and then said those deals are ironclad, even though the Supreme Court said, no. And then he said the Supreme Court has made their decision, now let them enforce it, and did genocide.
Jesus.
That's called the Trail of Tears.
Well, that sounds like Israel.
I mean, that's basically, the Trail of Tears is pretty similar to the Nakba. It all comes over refusing to compromise over taking the land, right? So there was no actual compromise to be had. It was either give us the land or give us the land. There was no winning for them.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
A catastrophe, it's because of Hamas. And on the third point, Amalek was known in Jewish history, and I'm sure you know this, that they attacked from behind. They killed the women and the children and the people who were sick, who couldn't walk quickly. That's why Amalek is in the Bible is so condemned, because they attacked the innocent.
This will be fun.
No,
I know my. Don't tell me I don't know my Jewish
Oh,
history.
look at him.
I know my
Petulant
Jewish
child.
history.
Petulant
Go and
child.
attack the Amalekites. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, and children. Is that what you're doing in Gaza? That's what the Prime Minister invoked.
No. He was describing. First of all, no one in Israel is calling for women and children to be killed. On the contrary, how can you?
Well,
say
your
such a
Heritage
thing?
Minister
That's
did.
really-
He said nuke Gaza.
No. What we have said is we're going to wipe out Hamas, and we are going to wipe out Hamas. But we make a clear distinction between Hamas and the Palestinian civilians of the Gaza Strip, who are in many ways Hamas's.
Oh my God! He literally said earlier that they aren't. Like, my God.
Hamas oppresses them. Hamas might want to kill Israelis, but the way Hamas treats the civilian population of Gaza, I'm sure you yourself will admit that they deserve.
At least they're alive.
Yeah, at least.
Hamas terrorist regime.
But on that note, I have to. We're out of time. Well, I'll give you one very straightforward last yes or no question for you. That Joe Biden wants a two-state solution in the Middle East. He wants it sooner rather than later. He says to get peace in the Middle East. Does your government, does Prime Minister Netanyahu support a two-state solution? Yes or no?
I think it's a time now for war. It's a time for victory. And when that's over, with Hamas defeated, with Hamas destroyed, when you've taken out the most extreme enemy of peace, that'll create room, I think, for more moderate and pragmatic voices to fill the vacuum, and that'll be good for peace.
So that's a yes or a no on a two-state solution.
I gave you a good answer, I thought.
Oh my God! Just answer the fucking
Mark
question.
Regev, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Mehdi.
Wild.
What a disaster!
Isn't it,
Holy
bro?
shit.
Do you think they're worse than Russia? Or do you think it's about the same?
No. No, they're worse. They're definitely worse.
I think as a whole, Russia does more damage to society.
Yeah.
But as far as like rhetorically,
diplomatically, it's
like
horrible. They're almost as bad as China.
There's like, like even Putin pretends that he's not doing genocide instead of like openly saying it,
Yes, yeah. And even China does as well.
What?
It's not happening.
Well, China says they sonared themselves. China's the worst at all of this. They're so
No. I mean, like the genocide thing. They're just like, oh, it's re-education camps. It's like it's almost there.
Oh yeah.
But this guy's just like, nah, fuck it, kill them all. So I think we'll cleanse this one with some cringe.
You don't like Christmas.
Let's fucking go. Wait till John gets back. Here he is.
You don't like Ramadan. You don't like Easter. You don't like Thanksgiving. I believe that there are certain moments throughout American history, I look 4th of July, Independence.
I'm still watching. I'm ready.
That can be celebrated regardless of imperfections throughout history. And I think that's important to note. And I think that it's a good thing to honor and show that there can be a moment in time of peace, because we had it for 50 years, regardless of the wars that happened before we came here.
Do centuries outweigh 50 years? Do you think Native Americans are thankful for being put on reservations, like centuries after Thanksgiving?
Being given reservations after they lost wars? Yeah.
Oh my
come
God.
on. You can even frame it better than that. Like they did negotiate for that shit, right? To end wars.
Yeah.
And like, yes, they were given them. And like, honestly, as fucked up as it is, sure, it could be seen as like, better than the alternative, I guess.
But that was like Oklahoma,
but it's still
and that
genocide,
Senate, right?
Like it's still ethnic cleansing. It's like, we could have went harder and wiped the entire race out.
They're lucky we let them live.
Yeah. So it's like, you're lucky we gave you land to keep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure you know the topic of discussion today. I know that we're often taught, especially.
So like, this is funny because like there's this whole like the war on Christmas has now also stepped up to be the war on Thanksgiving, and then it starts with the war on Columbus, right? So this is the entire war on holidays season of the year, and Thanksgiving is the funniest one because Christmas, it's just like, I want to keep religious practice around. I'm fine with that, right? If you want to just be, more religious than other people and have your thing, like, I'm probably not going to talk to you regardless, because I avoid people like you from a mile. So I don't care. But I also don't care what capitalist brands do to market to other people. And you need to
that's exactly what Christmas
you either need to be a capitalist or a Christian here, one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what Christmas is now. It's either a reason to see family, a reason to hate your life for 5 days, a reason to engorge yourself in capitalist markets, or you're a hyper-religious Christian who takes it weirdly serious. Or you're one of those people that put lights up, which those people look cool.
Thanksgiving is so funny because like they want to pretend like kids are being taught that it's like different than it like what do you mean? It's literally like you get to a point, honestly, where the story you're told about the holiday, you grow up and it's like finding out Santa's not real, and you have the adult version, right? Where you and like also it's like a modern tradition. Like I think Lincoln made it a thing. Maybe.
Interesting.
So like it was like retroactive and like after the Trail of Tears and shit.
Yeah. Also, we were saying just like diplomatically, not
just how they send their diplomats around, how measured they are. We also said that Russia is more damaging to the world than Israel.
Yeah.
Israel's really only damaging to Palestine.
Yeah.
In schools, Columbus Day, Thanksgiving, that's a racist holiday.
That is.
I don't agree. I think it's a wonderful holiday that should unify the nation. I think it has done me good, will do me good. I say God bless it. Happy Thanksgiving.
He's dressed up as...
At the end of it, I know.
Pilgrims would burn him at the stake. Okay?
My whole thing is like, I feel like at this point, most people don't even give a shit about the story. And it's just like an excuse to see family that you haven't seen forever.
Yeah, that's why that's why.
So just replace. Yeah.
So
just replace the whole meaning behind it with that, and just do like, what do they call it? Like Friendsgiving or whatever it is. Just make that the thing. Boom, it's gone.
Well, so the thing with Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving is like, so think about it. These are like the religious weirdos, right? Because they're all like Protestant, right?
Yes.
And shit. So they would kill people, right? And then they would give thanks to God for making them like strong in combat, right? So
awesome.
it like that's like how the word Thanksgiving comes, because like you give, because it's like there's a prayer that you're supposed to say before you eat. God, I used to say it all the time. Like thank you, Lord, for this bountiful spread. I give you not something, bow before something and blah blah blah.
So
there's
healthy.
There's a prayer that you pray before eating, and then so that's where it comes from, right? So the thing is that it wasn't exclusively just like a celebration of genocide, though, which is, but you understand how it is, because
no, of course,
so that's the whole argument that the indigenous people have with it.
No, I understand, and that's why I say just remove that meaning, have people understand what it is, but realistically, most people don't really give a fuck.
And eat the grossest meat known to man, turkey.
Yeah, turkey's awful. It's kind of we kind of just get the week off between Christmas and New Year's.
We get a lot of days off too in most places here. But anyway,
some people work in between, but
the story of Thanksgiving is funny because you can modernize it as a lesson on preventing genocide, right?
Yeah.
So like the word they use like in the historical text is braves. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be out of the lexicon completely yet, but it's a military aged like fighter, like actual fighters, not hunters, fighters, right? So these braves came because they heard guns going off because they were firearms practicing. And like this is after they taught these people how to like grow crops and stuff in the soil, because these were like idiot pilgrims, right? They literally like have been migrants and are just trying to like build a settlement. It would be like if we tried to build a settlement today, it would be pathetic, right? So like the village that they came upon, it's not exactly known what happened. Some say that it was like wholesale killed. Some say that these people were seasonal and it was like their winter hunting lodge type village. And then others say that it's smallpox. We don't exactly know for sure, but they literally moved into it. Yeah, no. This is Plymouth, like pilgrims, right?
Okay.
So we literally don't know exactly who built the place. Well, we know who built the place, but we don't know exactly what happened to the people who were there before.
Yeah.
So they kind of took houses that weren't theirs. And they saw it as like God gave us these houses, right?
Okay.
And so these guys are hunting a deer, right? And they bring the deer with them. So like, and they help themselves to the food, basically, because they we literally grew this. This is like you're part of our bowl, right? Because it's like one spoon, one bowl philosophy. They're like we gave you like sustenance to hunt. We allowed you to hunt. This is ours as much as it is yours, right? And so it was really more of like a gathering that spontaneously happens because they're here firearms, so they come to check, like ready to fight, right?
And there's a hunt, and then they
they're out scouting and hunting and shit, and they hear the firearms.
Yeah.
So they end up having like a nice little like feast together, but nobody ever was invited or asked to be there. Right. So what it is it's a lesson of tolerance, right? They didn't integrate, which, I mean, when the English literally killed descendants of Vikings in their war in Halifax. So like talk about integration. You wouldn't think the Vikings would be the ones, huh?
Yeah.
That came here and integrated into a tribe. But so like second generation people like from France and England were killed because like after it took hundreds of years for colonization to take place, right? It really starts taking focus like in the 1700s. But so these people tolerated each other enough to cohabitate the land, and that's really what it should be about, because if you give it the message of tolerance, then you also have the whole theme of like the liberal aunt at the table. There's all these jokes about how you have to tolerate your family. So like if it's like a tolerance day instead of Thanksgiving, right? I think that's a much better approach that recognizes exactly what was going on there. It wasn't cohabitation. They try to sell it like these people were peaceful and together and all that stuff.
That's very interesting. I kind of like that way more. Like that's really good.
I think it's fine to frame it that way.
Do you want to find something on this that we can talk about later? After this one?
I mean, I don't really have anything to like. We can do news stories about it, but like,
that's like we could do that.
Yeah, we can cover it. We're on our next release if we want. But I've only like read briefly about a lot of this because I've been editing.
So it'll be on the start of our next LTEC.
Yeah.
41.
Which is done.
Be coming hopefully this week.
Yeah, which is done.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you disagree, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So
if you want to switch in,
this is like a re-upload, right? Because he re-uploads all his shit. Right? This has got to be.
Yeah, it's a re-upload. Wait, it's on his clips channel, but it's 11 days ago.
Yeah, so he re-uploads all his shit from years ago because he doesn't do this shit anymore.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get a hint at the year. Maybe he does.
I love the title, Educating.
Yeah, that's why I clicked it. I'm like, that's an insane fucking title.
Isn't it weird to say not racist instead of non-racist?
Yeah, it's very weird.
Mm-hmm.
So Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday as well.
Oh.
I think that where it gets controversial is the origin story that we're taught about it.
Sure.
That Native Americans and Pilgrims peacefully got together and shared a meal.
Oh, look, you already said
and
this.
that's the story that kids are taught. That's kind of the narrative that we push, especially now that you're dressed as a pilgrim.
I appreciate that you recognize the garb. This wasn't all for naught.
But I saw a video
that
was made in 2015, and it's from cut.com. And it's a video that is a series of interviews that they interview Native Americans, and they ask them to describe Thanksgiving in one word, right?
Sure.
And these people say massacre, racist, false holiday,
sure,
unpeaceful, these kinds of things. So I think if we're asking Native Americans how they feel about the holiday, and that's what they're saying, then shouldn't we listen to them?
Oh, sure, you can listen to them. Doesn't mean that that's what the holiday is.
Okay, so
before we get to, why is it your favorite holiday?
I really like cooking and eating. And that's what the holiday is about for me. It's about giving thanks to the people in my life. I just think that when people talk about how Thanksgiving
is rocking to keep the demons at bay.
I guess being able to go home to my family and having that meal. Yeah, right. But I think that when people are talking about how Thanksgiving is controversial, that's what they're talking about. So how do you come back to that?
Well, it's incorrect.
It's incorrect. Okay.
Yeah, it's incorrect. So Thanksgiving is a celebration of in the 1620s when the Pilgrim settlers did have a meal of Thanksgiving
settlers
with the I think it's pronounced Wampanoag. Is that, do you know?
Wampanoag.
And they did celebrate and then had 50
she
years
knew.
of peace.
She knew.
Yeah, she
based queen.
She knows her history.
If we want to talk about the fact that there have been some acts of barbarism committed.
Some acts.
Yeah, of course. Committed against Native Americans and of course committed against Native Americans from Native Americans themselves. Obviously.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that happened obviously throughout the historical timeline, but that didn't happen at Thanksgiving. And it's interesting because, do you know when Thanksgiving was recognized officially as a federal holiday? So this is why I actually think it's the least racist holiday out there, because it's proactively a holiday designed to symbolize unity. It was Abraham Lincoln who wanted
you could put this shit in there too.
After some,
you could easily put this shit in there too. How literally that you could frame it, especially from a liberal perspective, how they tolerated racist slavers post Civil War to keep a country together. You could see that's very Joe Biden-ish. Biden is very I'm gonna keep the country. I'm the unifier.
That's very true.
Do you mind if I pause real quick?
And leave it in?
I don't have that kind of pull. I assume there's a hunchback up there who has an Antifa face mask.
That's why he made a joke.
So after the Emancipation Proclamation, actually very soon after, Abraham Lincoln thought it would be a good idea to have a national holiday that symbolized unity for all Americans.
I bet you if I Google this, it was Frederick Douglass's idea.
What was that?
Yeah, I said, I bet you if I Google this was also Frederick Douglass's idea. Just the whole freeing the slaves,
Do it. See if it actually was. That'd be funny.
Look back to that 1921 original Thanksgiving that symbolized the old world converging with the new world in 50 years of peace.
Okay.
So in looking to create a unifying holiday across all racial divides, he looked to a moment in early
whoa,
American
can we
history.
Go back? Did he say 50 years of peace?
Yeah, he did. What?
Nothing. Just the Mexican-American War had already happened. We've literally had an Africa campaign at this point. The Trail of Tears, tons of frontier wars and stuff. The Ohio Valley War, wild.
Maybe
also,
he means just
yeah,
between them.
I mean, because so it's like between the War of 1812. So is that when peace is not? Is that what they're measuring it from? Because it's not even 50 years then. Because I guess it's like after 1850. I just think Civil War 1850. I don't know the exact year.
Right.
Officially a country where that happened as well. So that's why we celebrate Thanksgiving.
But even if something proactively promotes unity, if there are people who don't feel that way, then those people were marginalized and affected by the...
You know what would be really cool in a secular society is people would be able to celebrate it their own way together and not have conflict. Wouldn't that be cool?
So I don't think Frederick Douglass would ever say anything should be a holiday. This dude was extremely anti-holiday. So it says the period of respite that was granted to slaves every year between Christmas and New Year's Day as a psychological tool of our oppressors.
Oh my God.
Like he recognized, it's literally the ceasefire, right? He's so brilliant, man. Like, of course. Like, I'm so stupid for thinking that he would ever say something like, "Hey, let's make a holiday that brings people together." Because, like, I know that he hates the 4th of July.
Interesting.
And he has an awesome speech that's like, "What is 4th of July to a slave?"
I think you've shown me this. Yeah.
There's a reading of it that Democracy Now! Did where James Earl Jones reads it. It's fucking awesome.
Oh, really? That sounds sick.
Acts of barbarism that you said happened,
but not by Thanksgiving. Did it happen throughout history? Sure. But
yeah,
not by Thanksgiving.
But if Thanksgiving is about a moment of unity between pilgrims and Native Americans, but the rest of the time that those two peoples interacted was filled with violence and inequality, then why is it just that day?
Well, a couple of things. First off, it wasn't the rest of the time.
It was most of the time. Millions of Native American people died because of colonial people coming over.
Do you know how many it is?
It's estimated actually about 50.
Sorry?
Well, let's see if he says how many people died. Let's hear it.
50% of Native Americans.
That's half the people. That's a lot of people.
Do you know how many of the settlers were wiped out?
They came here.
30%. So, in other words, it's not a genocide. It is a
genocide.
Well, it's actually not a genocide.
Oh, it's not a genocide. Both sides died?
Oh, my God.
Bro, there's actual things that we recognize would be ethnic cleansing today. Like, I talk about it all the time, but Pontiac's War, right? Like So, like, these British came in and settled New France thinking that it was theirs. Now that France left, right? And so they raided them and killed the settlers in these places. And that's that's why you'll hear this from tankies. They'll say that the whole reason America wanted freedom was to expand past the Appalachian Mountains and take the land from natives. That's their narrative. That's what they'll say. So because of this war, Britain banned settlement past the Appalachian Mountains. Because anytime they went out there, they got killed. And it was like coming off of Britain's bag there, like it's their responsibility because it was their citizens. And so they basically gave the entire Great Lakes region to Pontiac and in this rebellion. And that war still dictates a huge part of the Canadian policy with the tribes today. Shit. Yeah.
Interesting.
It also is like, it also gave pretext to like the American Revolution as well. Not so much for that reason, but because the economic devastation of France and England through the 7 Years' War is what made them unable to hold their colonies.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Because they were too busy fighting each other. If they unified in an almighty white genocide against the natives, then it would have been even worse.
This is why I unified with Greece in Civ 6 to dominate Persia.
I mean, they tend not to like Persia in history.
They brought the disease.
Well, hold on a second, guys. Let's just keep the conversations between two folks. They did bring disease. Yeah, they did bring disease with them, and it did wipe out quite a few Native Americans. That was actually before the Thanksgiving. That's why they came back to an abandoned village. I'm sure you're aware of that because they were wiped out by diseases that largely they hadn't encountered because they hadn't domesticated most animals yet. They hadn't domesticated horses. They had no contact with horses. They were technologically very regressive.
At least
use the wheel.
Oh, fuck you!
Fundamentally unfucking true.
Bro, I was like, they didn't have horses. I was like, okay, at least he said it, because like that's rational. Like they didn't. It was the livestock. We had different domestic, and then immediately he said they were like regressive technologically. Like, come on, dude.
Jesus Christ. Both politically and technologically, they were advanced.
Dude, they were regressive. That's why the United States based their entire fucking government off of their governments. Like, think about it. Think about it. Like, even if they had, like, they did convert to firearms very quickly, but even then, how they used those firearms was a completely different tactic, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that they were able to, like, go up against people with firearms and still win battles. Like, I think, don't the Zulu win against the British as well?
I think so, yeah.
Like, a lot of them fucking die, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the big British war is like they have this treaty that they wouldn't build fortifications, and it's like a it's like a main river, like the St. Lawrence or something. It's in Halifax. It's up there,
Yeah.
And so they used this hill that the British started building a fort onto for their canoes, right? So like they can spot the canoes coming in and out and stuff. It's like it helps with their logistics and trade network. And so the British came in and just started building a fort there. And the guy's like, hang on, let me read his quote specifically.
Is this the same fort that was in the Last of the Mohicans?
No,
a different one.
So it's okay. So the chief writes to them. It's the Micmac, right? And he writes, so they had a treaty that they wouldn't build a fortification here, right? Because they need it, right? So it's a direct violation of the treaty. So he goes, this place where you are, the place where you live, the place where you are building a fortification, the place where you want to now establish yourself, the place of which you want to make yourself absolute master. This place is from father to son. This place is my land, I swear it. It is God who has given me this land to be my homeland forever. My king and your king together distribute these lands, and it is because of that they presently at peace. But for me, I can neither make alliance nor peace with you. This is like a really like direct translation. There's more, or not a direct translation. So like there's other ones like, so like there's this translation down here. Let me find this one. There's one where he talks about how he grows from the land as sure as the grass. I just should control F grass real quick. Grass. Okay. So it's like this place belongs to me. I come out of the earth like a blade of grass. Me, the Indian. I have been born there. The son and the father. This place is my land. I swear it. God has given me the land. See, it's like many different translations of it.
Yeah.
But this whole thing is a declaration of war. And all the way to the Great Lakes region, to Nova Scotia, like the Viking descendants and shit come into this war. So like I don't know like the numbers, but it's one of the biggest wars in North America that and it's big because you want to know why they come at them so hard? It's because this guy Cornwallis, he just had come back from Scotland where the Jacobites rebels were, and he used terrorism. He used state terrorism against them and destroyed them.
Shit.
So he said, "Oh, we'll just use state terrorism against them." And when these gruesome attacks were carried out upon the Micmac, it was so outrageous that the story spread throughout the entire Northeast, and they all came to fight.
Oh my god! No shit. They fucked up. Jesus Christ, that's wild. What a crazy story.
So what happened was there was a moment of peace there for 50 years. We had a very long portion of history that was very peaceful with Native Americans. There were multiple alliances between new settlers and Native Americans, because Native Americans were warring with each other. And we do choose, though, as a holiday to celebrate this moment of unity. We choose to celebrate a positive moment. I mean, you can look at Veterans Day or Memorial Day. Well, there are horrible actions.
Yeah, I feel the same way about those holidays.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Same thing with 4th of July?
Yes.
Same thing with Christmas?
Yeah.
Ramadan?
I'm Muslim, yep.
Okay, because obviously slavery is still practiced across the Islamic world. So you believe that
Okay.
it is it not?
I mean, it's practiced across the entire world.
True.
Not
in the
just
United
the
States.
not just the
Well, not in the
Islamic
United
world.
States.
Well, the
'Cause you're
world
talking
Yes,
isn't
it is.
the United States.
Yes,
versus
it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it absolutely is. Prison systems are literal slave camps. Says it in the Constitution.
Islamic world, is it? It's the world, the Islamic world, all different kinds of parts.
Well, in comparison to, example, the settlers in modern America. The point is, but we're not celebrating that with Ramadan, are we? We're not celebrating the Spanish Inquisition when we celebrate Christmas, right? Christians committed some horrible actions. We're not celebrating war with Native Americans when we celebrate Thanksgiving. We're celebrating a moment of peace and unity because it shows that it can be done.
I think what people want is an acknowledgement that these things happened.
I've already done.
At the very least. At the very least. And as I was saying, in a perfect world, you could just celebrate it or commemorate it however you want. And then anybody can choose to do whatever they want and everybody can get together. It shouldn't matter how people feel about the day.
Right?
Yeah.
Which an acknowledgement of these racist things that did happen and implying that maybe the narrative that we push isn't true, and that acknowledging that there was a disagreement and violence between these people.
Sure.
I think people just want that acknowledgement, and by flat out saying Thanksgiving is not racist, I think a better way to say, I think you could say these things did happen and this is what it's based on, and Thanksgiving has evolved into become something else. But that doesn't mean I'm going to erase the opinions of Native Americans who suffered.
Well, who erased opinions of Native Americans who suffered? That's not what I'm doing.
By saying Thanksgiving isn't inherently racist, you are erasing that.
So in other words, unless I say that Thanksgiving is inherently racist, I am erasing the opinion of all Native Americans.
I think it's people like Stephen Crowder that make it racist. And it's all about the approach that is had. So the defense of all this shit is what makes it racist. You're the one making it a racist holiday. You could, like I said, you could make it a tolerance holiday. Like, why can't you? Like, they proclaim to be the actual tolerant people and say so much for the tolerant left.
Yeah.
They don't tolerate our ideas.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's hypocrisy as per usual.
Well, that Thanksgiving is racist.
Well, just because
and they were the marginalized group, you know, and we're pushing this narrative that they were happy to have.
At Thanksgiving, they were, and for 50 years, they were.
Okay.
So isn't that a good thing?
I've heard that dinner didn't happen.
It did happen.
Okay.
Not only, and I've also heard this. You know, people try to go to the Winthrop Diaries later, and I believe it was in the 1630s, where they had Thanksgivings during times of war against the Pequots. But that wasn't all the same thing. They were thankful for during battle that they had fewer casualties, and so I think that's probably what you're conflating. They teach that often in school.
That's such a weird way to phrase it.
Mm.
Like, well, I think I did just fine saying that they were giving thanking God for victory in battle. Like, we had fewer casualties. No shit. What do you think of victory in battle is?
You say we don't teach any of this. When I went to college, when I went to high school, I was only taught about colonialism and how awful the settlers were. I was never taught, for example, of all the warring between the tribes, of the cannibalism, of the scalping that they were doing. I was taught
cannibalism. Bro, where? You mean in fucking Barbados and shit? Come on.
They were peaceful people, and these settlers came in and stole their land, when the reality was they were warring, they were barbaric. We had many years of peace. We came in, we purchased land.
Bro, what are you
talking
about?
See her eyebrows go up? See her eyebrows go up? She's like,
it's just insane because, like, you could say some of the shit about the Aztecs, right? Like, nobody liked them.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
And, like,
they literally fell because nobody liked them.
The northern like war, right? It's mainly between like a few different like ethnic speaking groups, right? So like it's like very simple like land territory skirmishes. Like this is common, but I know the Iroquois specifically practice this. Like, if you lose somebody in battle, you're allowed to take one of theirs, and basically it's like a slave, right? And then there's documents of them not, because the Iroquois fought the French because the French allied with the Algonquins.
Yeah.
And the Iroquois were already like working with the Dutch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to like be the centermen of like all the trade to like gain power and shit like that. That's a lot different than like what you hear about with the Aztecs and how the Aztecs, you know, like it's simple like resource skirmishes where you would like maybe lose one or two guys at most.
Foreigner, kill them.
Yeah. Like Aztecs were literally like, you know, like brutal, like cutting people's heads off. And like you take that account and you apply it to like a completely different part of the world. Like especially with like, so like barbecue, right? Like this is where the allegations of cannibalism comes from, is the origins in like barbecue.
Okay.
But like also there's lots of places where you kind of like, it's very moist and humid, right, in the jungle, so you barbecue the human remains because it's not like you can bury them. The bodies will like right. So that's why you see like a lot of cannibalism rituals in places like West Papua and all these rainforest places, because it makes sense there. They need to dispose of the bodies somehow. And if they'll just wash up if you try to bury them and bring disease, which they would see as like bad omens, right?
Yeah.
It's not out of brutality, you know? Like who eats people out of brutality?
Yeah. Crazy people.
There is like some like headhunter tribes and stuff like that have been in there. But like still, like like I said, like the overall thing of cannibalism in these regions is because of that.
And we traded. We had a healthy trading relationship for a while. And
they
then
were barbaric. They lived here. This was their land.
Yeah, they were certainly barbaric.
You could argue that the colonialists were barbarians
because they used the war club.
Taking their land.
Club mean barbarian. Huh? I said it's because they used war clubs. Club mean barbarian.
I'd say the colonialists were barbaric compared to us today, and I would certainly say that Native Americans
compared to
were
us
barbaric in their practices compared to the colonialists.
Well, just because you don't agree and understand with something doesn't make it barbaric.
No,
well, I just mean the fact that they didn't have plumbing or use the wheel.
No. Honestly, I don't think really either side was that barbaric at the end of the day. You know,
honestly, at that point, it was fairly modern.
Like
it was approaching
the campaigns, like raids and stuff. Like they would capture people and take them as slaves and stuff. Like there was like acts of terrorism and raids and stuff like that. And like the scalping and shit. Like you can live through that, you know.
Yeah.
They just like, and like you know, you'll have a scar on your head after.
Plumbing.
So they didn't have plumbing. The Romans
that doesn't make them inferior to other people.
It just means it's barbaric.
Okay.
Oh my god.
When I'm talking about barbaric, I'm talking about less evolved technologically and societally.
Okay, so definition rather than the connotation.
Yes, definition rather than the connotation.
So you seem to be someone who ignores connotations.
No, I don't.
Because Thanksgiving has a negative connotation in some people's eyes, but you're ignoring that connotation.
So does Christmas.
Yeah, so does Christmas. You don't talk about that either?
Okay.
I do talk about
the
Christmas.
Definition. So there's two definitions. You could say primitive and unsophisticated, but it's savagely cruel, exceedingly brutal, right? Primitive, unsophisticated. I mean, even like you literally can look at Jefferson talking about how these people are equal to the whites.
Yeah.
They just have inferior culture compared to white culture.
Sure.
So like it's just weird. He's using it. He's using this language to get under her skin, then be able to frame it as use the secondary definition to be able to like weasel his way out of calling them barbarians.
That's exactly that's all these are.
Bro, it's so silly too, because like to think of like the idea he has of like how like nation states existed and they all had like plumbing and shit. Bro, like didn't like when was the like Great Stink of London? Can we look that up? Let's talk about London's plumbing, okay? The Great Stink of. Do you know what this is?
No.
Okay. So this was even after that, right? So the Great Stink. So you also have to remember they believed at this time that miasma made you sick. See, it even says here miasma, right? So basically everyone was shitting and pissing into the river, and 1 year it had low tide. So like,
no.
Cholera, like 3 outbreaks of cholera, and like they talk about how it's because it's right near like Parliament. So they're talking about how they had to go into Parliament with like masks filled with like flowers and oils and stuff because of how bad it smelled.
That's awesome.
Because like they literally were dumping corpses in this whole thing, right? And so like there's like years and years of the English not figuring out. So like it's like it's literally like sewage runoff. Look, here's them believing Monster Soup. This is a political
Monster
cartoon.
Soup.
You're right, because
Monster Soup.
Yeah, because it's like the miasma theory. Like these are all the. I mean, it's honestly, if you look under a microscope, this wouldn't be far off, right?
No, it wouldn't be. Yeah, the bacterial infection. What are they called? It's got a specific
microbes.
Name. The cholera is the microbes of bacteria.
Like, look at this guy. Just like a trolley man out here. They like
scooping shit.
They literally believe in bad air and monsters. So you know.
And when was this?
The smell from the river was so bad that the government poured chalk lime, chloride of lime, and carbolic acid into the river to ease the stench.
Jesus.
This is literally while the Civil War was going on. Right?
Seriously.
Does this sound civilized to you?
The 1800s.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
The cholera, cholera is such an interesting disease to read the history on, because like there's like some guy who like knew what it was and like located it to this pump because it like he figured out that the sewers were running downstream. Also, the Romans had aqueducts, pal.
Yeah. Wasn't plumbing.
Yeah, you think that aqueducts didn't exist here? Nobody built an aqueduct of some kind.
Aqueducts are literally medieval technology in Civ.
Christmas. I think it's wonderful and should be celebrated. I know that you've made it clear that you disagree. You don't like Christmas. You don't like Ramadan.
Yeah,
you don't like
and
Easter,
like Romans had to do
Thanksgiving.
that because they had no fresh water because they picked a shitty spot to camp.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, they had fresh water all over the place here. Like, have you seen how nice the water is in the northwest or the northeast?
I have.
It's all glacial spring, bro. It's insane.
Yeah. It's like the mountains, the water around the mountains in Victoria. It's all gorgeous, and it flows into Melbourne, and it becomes another sewage runoff shit river. And it's brown. It's great. You see bikes and shit just thrown in the river all the time. It's hilarious.
I believe that there are certain moments throughout,
like all those e-bikes, you know, those rentable e-bikes, they all end up in the river.
Oh yeah, I know.
American history, I let 4th of July, independence, that can be celebrated regardless of imperfections throughout history. And I think that's important to note. And I think that it's a good thing to honor and show that there can be a moment in time of peace.
I think
because we had
we should fuck the 4th of July. Let's do the Emancipation Proclamation Day.
Regardless of the wars that happened
That's
before
a real
we came
independence. It's the independence from the burden of slavery. See, there you go.
Yeah. Do centuries outweigh 50 years? Do you think Native Americans are thankful for being put on reservations?
That's a good point.
Like centuries after Thanksgiving?
Being given reservations after they lost wars? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So you don't like any of the holidays, okay? And you say that I'm completely ignoring someone's opinion if I don't agree with them.
No, that's not what I said. I said that you're ignoring the opinion of marginalized people who the holiday affects.
Who can even have this conversation with Steven Crowder where he's not an asshole? Nobody. He's literally dressed up as a pilgrim talking about natives being barbarians, right? Like if he was in private with somebody like Charlie Kirk would be like, calm down, you know? I don't think it's like, whoa, you know? Like nobody.
He definitely says
nobody would tolerate
the N-word in private.
Oh yeah, that nobody would tolerate this. You know, like who the fuck would tolerate this kind of like bad behavior? Like who is like
not his wife
intolerant?
not his wife.
Like, you have to be so intolerant to tolerate this fucking childish nonsense. He's literally like Nick Fuentes level of childish.
Yeah.
Nick Fuentes, actually, I think Nick Fuentes isn't childish enough to dress up as a pilgrim to do this. So Nick Fuentes might have a maturity factor on this man.
Who the glorification of the holiday negatively affects because it erases what they say happened to them, and they were here first, so they should have a say in what the narrative is about.
Yeah, no one's saying they can't have a say. I don't believe it's a racist holiday.
But by erasing someone's experience, erasing someone's experience is a form of racism.
His mic rubbing
erasing
on his
someone's
pilgrim
experience
costume.
and reframing it in
but I didn't erase anybody's experience.
But by saying it isn't racist, you are erasing someone's experience.
No.
Yes, you are. Inherently.
Incorrect.
Why?
That's not the definition of racism.
What's the definition of racism?
Definition of racism is believing that somebody is inferior solely based on their race.
That's prejudice. Racism is institutionalized discrimination. Yes, it is.
Not true. That's not true. He's correct on this. That is the definition of racism. There are different levels of it, but there's a lot of shit about this.
Yeah, well, she's right in that it's institutionalized racism.
Yeah, but that's a different thing. It's a next step of racism, right? The base racism is like
his argument is like it's actually prejudice, not racist.
Well,
like, shut up! You're a fucking racist.
Think,
you still think they're barbarians, bitch. Shut up.
So
take a hike.
The reason that they do this is so that then they can say, "Oh yeah, but they were also racist based on this definition," right? Which is definitionally true, but also irrelevant, right? It really doesn't matter. But they bring it up as some kind of like, oh yeah, but statement, right? Idiots.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm not an institution, so right now we're going with the individualized definition of racism.
And you're ignoring the institutionalized
and you just accuse me
racism.
Individually of being racist.
You are.
So let me ask you this. Maybe we can find some common ground here because you said you love Thanksgiving, but you don't like the holidays. What should we do then? Right? Contact is made between two civilizations, for example. This happens, right? One has rifles and one has wheels and horses, and they engage in peace.
Oh,
and
fuck
then there are land
off,
disputes
bro.
when land was purchased. So
he has to bring up the wheel. Yeah, dude, because they needed a wheel. Like, the wheel is honestly like a step backwards in technology for like like when they were pursuing it, they literally couldn't figure out the axle to make it turn and like had to have it pulled by oxen while everyone else is like, we have camel. So, like,
why?
The way the ground is, like, they had sleds. They use sleds here, especially because most of the year it's like Arctic and stuff.
Yeah.
So like sleds, and then
Makes
also
sense.
fresh river everywhere, canoes.
Canoes, yeah.
Like, it's
Makes
a completely different logistic system. There's
it's
no
a-
water
it's a
where they had the
geographical
wheels,
issue.
right? They needed to make a
Exactly.
line somehow.
Exactly.
let's get rid of what we have right now. What would you do? You would have no Thanksgiving. What would we do? What should the United States be? I'm genuinely curious.
I think just an acknowledgement, like everyone should acknowledge what happened.
Yes, I believe everyone does.
And also, they had wheels.
I have.
Like, there's toys that have wheels on them and stuff, right? So, like,
really?
yeah. So, like, it's not like they weren't capable of figuring out what a wheel is. They just knew that it was inefficient, which it is. A wheel is extremely inefficient.
For where it was, yeah.
Yeah.
For where they were.
That's why we have to fucking make roads for them to work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the point. That's the point that they do it for.
That's why Steven Crowder can't be racist. Yep. Because the dictionary tells them.
Okay.
So is it okay to acknowledge that there were acts of horrible evil and violence across all sides and still celebrate Thanksgiving for what it is? Is that okay?
It's a good question. I haven't thought that far.
Do you think that it is better to celebrate Thanksgiving and recognize a moment of unity and encourage it both with the early settlers, the early pilgrims and the Native Americans, as well as after the Civil War? Do you think it's more productive to have a day to celebrate that and encourage that kind of unity and bridging that cultural divide? Or do you think it's
Who gives a shit, bro? Like, it's literally
the
it's the myth for children, and then a family fucking dinner. Okay, it's a reason for families to have a dinner together. Who's the weird thing? The weird thing is everyone thinks that it has to be the tradition to go around and say what you're thankful for. Cringe as fuck. I already don't attend Thanksgiving because of solidarity. All right, but I especially would need to leave if that happened. Like,
I probably would as well. It's awful.
Fucking,
I'm like, oh, this is awful.
Weird.
I'm like, everybody's saying what they're thankful for. I'm already finished.
Yeah. And like families that aren't even religious say that prayer that I was saying, like we're about to eat prayer for some reason.
Yeah.
Like
weird.
It's like the only time you would pray as if like we used to pray before dinner when I was a kid. Right?
Hectic. I hated it ever since I was a kid. We got forced to do religious education when in for year 1, and I was like, this is shit. I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is awful. I'm laughing. I'm like, this is a stupid story. You're telling me some imaginary dickhead made me? Fuck you. I just was always that way. It's very strange that I was that way from like very young, but yeah, never really worked on me.
I think it's performative. So if something
like virtue signaling,
yeah. So if something's performative, then does it really do the good that you're describing?
What good am I describing?
The unity.
Okay. So
the
here, this is the prayer. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. Like that's how you every day in school. That's how they would say it. Like the kids like just
awful.
Like that tone.
It's awful. So weird. It's so culty. Just creepy, real creepy.
Unity that you're
anybody chanting in unison is just awfully creepy. Just really, really creepy. Just stop it. Just
prayer,
please don't do
especially in
this.
unison.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Just stop this.
Do you know that there's The Legend of Zelda on Nintendo 64 got censored because one of the songs in the background they have a Muslim prayer.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Who cares? Religious weirdos.
Because it's like associated with a fire temple, you know?
Okay. Cool. That sounds sick.
I don't know. They didn't know it was a prayer or something. They picked it because it sounded creepy, I think.
Perfect.
I think it's performative, then is that unity really there, or is it a performative unity?
That's a good question. This chick's pretty switched on. I'm glad we watched this. She's great. He's an asshole.
Actually.
Well, I think, you just talked about Thanksgiving cooking and spending time with family. I mean, that's unity right there, right? That's prioritizing giving thanks.
Nice.
I mean, I think that Thanksgiving, honestly, is the least exclusive holiday. Christianity, Christianity would exclude people of other religions.
It's secular.
Ramadan would exclude people of other religions. You can take your pick from any of the religious holidays. Thanksgiving is be thankful for what it is that you do have, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Buddhist,
whether you're Muslim. Are you and your family going to talk about what happened to the Native Americans?
I mean, we've talked about it all throughout my life, and I learned about it in school.
Are you going to acknowledge it at the dinner table?
I don't know. Do I have to?
You should.
Okay.
Yeah, bring up that conversation. That'll be fun.
He said, "Okay,"
especially in an American house.
He's like, "You should." He's like, "Okay."
I agree.
I think
it'd be a fun conversation.
Did you just change your mind, Steven Crowder? You agreed. You changed your mind. She got you to change your mind. He fell into it. She trapped him.
You have people say don't bring up like politics, religion, and what was the other one around the dinner table or some shit. Have you ever heard this?
Yeah, well, that's the whole
fuck
meme
that.
of
Those are the best conversations.
Bro,
Only talk about those.
Thanksgiving gave us Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is a fire movie. Okay, have you seen that movie?
Is that the one with big fat guy?
Yeah,
died real early. The funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember his name. I always forget his name.
Yeah, Uncle Buck.
I have seen that. Huh?
It's the guy who played Uncle Buck.
Yeah, I think I have seen that one. Yeah,
it's the one. It's the guy who's not Chris Farley, but also fat and died early.
Right? No, why not?
I didn't say I wouldn't.
You should.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling me what I should and should not do in my
welcome.
personal time.
You're welcome.
And you wouldn't think that is that at all in any way is overstepping bounds or being pushy.
No.
Oh my God.
I don't.
All right. Well, maybe you should discuss with your family the history that you learned that wasn't accurate that you brought here to the table.
Right.
And maybe you can all get an accurate account of what happened historically, and maybe discuss as well the acts of barbarism that still go on since Muslim across the Islamic world.
He's such a douchebag.
Whoa, come on! At the end here to bring it up, and maybe you can talk about how we are all Muslims and bad.
Hey man, I am anti-fat. Look, man.
Don't alienate the audience.
It's not that hard to listen.
Don't alienate the audience.
Do you do that at Ramadan?
Yeah, I do actually.
You do?
I do.
So what do you discuss at Ramadan?
I discuss
indentured servitude.
I like to discuss.
She's just every time he says something, she's just like, "Did you really just say that?"
She's
Jesus Christ.
She's tolerance queen.
Yeah.
When I say tolerance
really
is the bare minimum, I'm manifesting this girl, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
That Islam itself isn't in certain Middle Eastern countries how it's unequal for women.
Sure.
And as a woman, and as a Muslim woman who was raised Muslim, I believe that that's unequal, and I will acknowledge that. I like to acknowledge how Saudi Arabia, for example, is guilty of hypocrisy. You know, the royal family has so much money.
I know you're talking a lot lower right now.
Yeah, I am.
Is it because you're concerned about criticizing Islam?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that's just ingrained in me.
Interesting.
Well, that's peculiar.
Yeah.
It's very introspective.
It is. Nice talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your intellectual honesty there, and that you have those discussions. I don't think you need to do that at Ramadan.
I feel bad for having
enjoying Ramadan for how bad it is and celebrating
Fuck
it with your family.
Fuck you, dude. The gaslighting he just did on her. Where he's like, aren't you overstepping your boundaries? Why don't you bring this up at Ramadan? And now he's like, he pressured her into saying, you should also do this. And she goes, okay. Right?
Yeah.
And now he's like, well, I don't think you have to do that because that would be me being pushy. You literally did, though. You literally did it, though. That's you. What
I'm glad you called that because I missed that.
Family is a wonderful thing, regardless of, listen, Muslims are imperfect. Christians are imperfect. Native Americans are certainly imperfect. If you go back to old colonial England, the Church of England are certainly imperfect.
I don't know.
The Irish are certainly imperfect, but it's not
my
business to tell them what they need to.
No.
Listen,
the Irish are pretty based.
That's what I was about to say. Is it's like
top of the European tier list.
Imperfect how? You know?
He's not going to tell you.
What did they do exactly? The natives, right? What did they do that's so awful? They also committed raids?
Yeah. I mean, what they existed.
They went to war and fought like with people? Is that awful? Like, where's the tarnished legacy? Where's the one guy who was like, this guy went too far? Geronimo? You know, after the entire, like, this is way after Thanksgiving, you know, when we're getting to Geronimo territory.
Yeah.
And like, he's the only one I could even like give credence to. What?
Is that's almost like the Texas area or a pastor?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So he was going on raids into the settlements that were settling the region, like around the like Mexican War, right? So like, yeah, but like his tribe was saying that like they discouraged because it made things worse for them because of the collective punishment, right? So it's like you could say what Geronimo was doing, he was fighting for his people, he was doing the right thing, but you can also talk about how that's a complicated legacy because his people literally didn't want that to happen because it was making their life worse. And like if you think about it, I use Geronimo as a comparison to Hamas today, right? And how you can understand people who supported Geronimo saw that they're going to be wiped out regardless. Like they have to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just makes sense if you have any shred of empathy, it makes sense. You can and it's not necessarily even supporting it, it's just understanding why.
Geronimo's funny though, because like they keep imprisoning him, and then he breaks out of jail with like a posse and like steals a bunch of horses, and immediately goes back to raiding. That's all he did. Like he was all about resistance. He's the total badass.
Discuss on St. Patrick's Day.
Just when I saw that video and when I've talked to Native American people and just heard about what happened, I just have empathy for what they say.
Sure.
And it just makes it difficult to not speak up for them.
I have empathy. Here's the thing. I
Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard.
Is that not what I just said? I said it's just base empathy. That's all you need.
Empathy as well, but you can also have empathy.
He has empathy, guys. Remember, Steven Crowder has empathy.
Yeah, he doesn't even have empathy for his own fucking unborn child.
No, he does not.
For example, I have a relative who's bipolar.
Great filming, guys.
I'm not saying Native Americans are bipolar. This is an example. I hope you understand this, right? I have a relative who's bipolar.
What is happening?
And he will describe situations or scenarios that are not real.
And you have empathy for him.
And I have empathy for him, but it's not necessarily accurate. And so I love him, and I care about him, and I let him know that I love him and I care about him, but I don't engage on the plane, on the wavelength that what you're saying is accurate.
I don't think you can compare severe mental illness to...
This is insane.
The way people feel about
We're not supposed to use the term mental illness anymore.
Yes, you are.
Oh my god.
Depending on what it is, depending on how it's defined by the DSM-5.
I'm mentally ill and I use that term.
I'm definitely mentally ill.
Yeah.
Dude, but I swear to God, if he... Do you know why he brought that up? Try and guess. What is their favorite topic to talk about? These type of people.
Transgenders?
Yes. Nailed it. You nailed it. Because they keep saying that they're mentally ill, and that's why you can't let them make choices.
Oh, that's why he thinks that you're not supposed to say it anymore. I think this is a re-upload from like back in the day. Like I'm sure this girl is even more I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if she has a non-profit doing base shit, you know?
Yeah. You know what, you're probably right. I wouldn't be surprised.
But again, I was saying I'm not comparing bipolar to Native American. I was saying that one can have empathy without necessarily agreeing with the premise as far as its accuracy.
This is such a cope. Like this is him outwardly projecting his cope to try and desperately get the not even an actual statement of like, okay, yeah, you have empathy. It's just like a fake one. He just wants fake affirmation because he's a literal fucking child. Just like the Israeli guy on the last video. Fucking children. Child brain. Stop developing at 12.
Empathy for Native Americans saying, hey, Thanksgiving to me represents all of these wars that occurred and these battles and genocide. And I can say, hey, I understand how you feel, but that's not what Thanksgiving is celebrating. And I can say, I understand how you feel, but there also wasn't mass genocide committed if you actually look at it.
There was mass genocide committed.
By definition, it wasn't genocide. There were wars and one side won.
Was.
One-sided war, mind
Bro,
you. But,
what are you talking about? By definition.
Do we need to bring up
first of all, like I've said,
convention?
Like I've said multiple times, the only debate you can have is that it's pre-convention, right? So like, it's like with strategic bombing, right? Strategic bombing matters today if someone does it, but like World War II, we didn't have that philosophy at the time. Like we didn't recognize genocide at the time. I mean, like, there's wars, right, that aren't genocides in World War I, where a lot more people died in than all these individual wars. But the collective total, I want to say, like, technically, it's the largest genocide. If you do collective total, the Native American chinchillas are fighting. Hey, guys,
Billy Gooses. Can't hear him.
Gain's too loud. They stopped though. They were just squeaking and scratching at each other.
I think we
They're
can
still
move
doing
on
it.
anyway.
Yeah, I'm just looking up the Native American
We'll do Sam Seder.
genocide. No. Okay. Okay. In 1491, about 145 million people lived in the Western Hemisphere. By 1691, the population of indigenous Americans declined by 90 to 95%, or maybe around 130 million people.
Damn. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. So the Sam Seder one, is that the one about Dennis Prager?
Yeah, he does an interview with Dennis Prager.
Well, this one is David Pakman talking to Dennis Prager about it. So this could be even more interesting.
Oh, is there also the fucking Vaush called me a genocidal maniac?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're gonna do
that one as
Pac-Man,
well.
I'd rather watch that one first and then
Okay.
follow up.
I'll play that because I need to run to the toilet quickly.
All right, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And then here's my only request. You tell me whether I should do stuff like this. Over the weekend, our team found a handful of clips of me being criticized by other people, ostensibly on the left, for things I supposedly said about the Israeli-Hamas conflict. Fine. In general, I don't do tit for tat. Let me generate a war and respond to this stuff. What I'm increasingly doing is not reacting to the vast majority of this stuff. And
this
really
is
trying to take
such a
on a
code.
personal level an attitude of, hey, you know what? Not everybody's going to like me. If I find out someone who I don't know doesn't like me, it doesn't really affect my life in any way. And really, in addition to
that's why you're making a whole video about
social
it.
media anymore, really trying to consume the information that I believe is worthwhile, reading a ton, primary sources, doing my commentary, and really tuning out the noise. Because it's important to remember, none of this stuff is real life. The fact that someone I don't know on the internet doesn't like me really doesn't matter. And so it's important.
I touch grass.
The way I've been thinking about it is, in 10 years, will I regret it if I don't respond to random people on the internet who don't like me? I don't think so. So I'm increasingly not engaging.
Random person, huh?
Bro, this is I love it when these
how many
drama
subscribers?
channels-
How many viewers does Vaush have? It couldn't possibly be because he's big, is it? Ooh, clap chasing. Ooh. What are you saying?
Like, these people always like, I don't normally do this drama stuff before immediately doing the shitty drama stuff.
Yeah, always.
Every time. Even the people who do it.
With this stuff.
So
I am going to
it's such a
respond to one
cop-out.
of these because it's the only person who said something in these clips that I actually know who they are. The other ones my team found, we have no clue who these people are. There's a guy named Vaush. Some people know him as Ian Vaush, who has a channel. He's been on my channel. I've been on his channel. So he attacked me, and I'm going to play what he said, and I will talk about it. And you tell me, is this a complete and total damn waste of time?
Some guy, huh?
Or is this in any way useful? Okay, so let's
you
take a
tell
listen,
me.
and just
Will you click on this video if I do this more? You guys let me know if you want to see me do more drama bait so I get the clickety clacks from you, okay?
When he says Deepak, he's referring
so
to me.
artificial,
There are
bro.
some communities that refer to me as Deepak. Okay, so let's listen.
Did you say Deepak do just that? Deepak has always had really stupid opinions when it comes to Israel. When I raised a bunch of money for the Palestine Children Relief Fund, he like offhandedly said it might be going to Hamas.
Okay, so let's start there. My opinions are stupid. Very difficult.
That was a very stupid opinion because that's the typical brain dead propagandized take
to respond to. No, they aren't, bro. Your opinions are stupid. No, your opinions are stupid. They're not very substantive. My opinions are stupid. Then he says, I said the money he was raising was going to Hamas. Now, I looked for this. This was years ago, where someone on my stream said, are you joining Vaush's fundraiser for X group? I didn't recognize the name of the group. And what I imagine I said, and I admit I don't remember, I remember the event. I don't remember exactly what I said. What I imagine I would say is, I am super careful about fundraising for any charity until I know damn sure everything about it. There are so many charities that we later find out it sometimes are funding Hamas or other groups. There's the...
Well, he flubbed that.
Bro.
Most charities are shit. He's 100% correct. Not just funding Hamas.
Well,
most
dude,
of them.
He's like, what I imagined I said. Did you say it or not?
Yeah. Like, it's not a very hard question. Like, why are you dodging it? Did you actually say it and you're trying to cope and cover for yourself? Maybe. That couldn't possibly be it, right?
Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development. Turned out money was going to Hamas. The International Relief Fund for the Afflicted and Needy. Turned out money was going to Hamas. So if I said it, I would not have said Vaush is giving money to Hamas. If I said anything along these lines, it would have been, I don't know about that group. I'm super careful before I join any fundraiser. And in particular, in this case, because of that, there's nothing wrong with raising money for Palestinian kids. I'm just by nature skeptical of charities, especially in opportunistic, fast-moving situations. I wasn't able to find what I said. Let's continue. Here is Vaush's critique. My positions are stupid. Okay.
He's always been like a Zionist, parentheses negative.
I've always been a Zionist. Now, again, how can I respond to that? Because at this point, Zionist as a word has essentially no meaning.
I agree.
Incorrect.
I'll explain to you how the conversations usually go.
What do you mean? Because they're just calling everyone a Zionist?
Yeah. And I have friends who just like get pissed about anti-Semitism and shit because people are being like anti-Semitic in their shit. Like these are like pro-Palestine people, right?
Okay.
And then they get called Zionists for being like standing up to like anti-Semitism.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, that's strange.
Do you have to be polite? No.
Well, yeah,
like
maybe
they don't have to be polite to you in their response to your anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
You're a Zionist. Oh, okay. What exactly did I say? Well, you said you like the bombing of Palestinian kids. Oh, really? When did I say that? Well, I don't know. It's not that you said it, but it seems like you aren't as worried about... Okay. Zionist is a really silly term right now because some people use the term as an insult, as an attack. Very few people use it to describe any cohesive set of ideas. So, for example, some people will simply say, I don't think it's legitimate to suggest that Israel as a country be eliminated to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm one of those people, right? For me, the solution isn't going to be the destruction or elimination of Israel. The fact that I think Israel has a, quote, right to exist, to some people makes me a, quote, Zionist.
Yes.
For others, Zionism means...
Literally, that's the point on why. That's the point on why it's a useless term. Like you're calling somebody a Zionist because they see it as like the solution is Jews being displaced and the state being destroyed, right? But the thing is like the conversation can go into it where you talk to these people and be like, what is the necessity of having a religious state? Why does it have to be a Jewish state, right? And then you can talk into like ideas on like, why can't it just be a Jewish nation? And you can get into those ideas and you can actually start to explain that these ideas are a lot more complicated and everyone is just very heated in their understanding and language around this because it's a genocide and they have every right to be heated, right?
Well,
and like I'm just saying, I empathize with people who feel all the anti-Semitism. That doesn't change the fact that there's a genocide going on, though.
Yes, yeah, because it's been interesting because I've never really given a shit about Israel or anything like this. I never really looked into it, anything like that. I'm just sort of like, it was never really an issue that I thought about, and I've been learning. And Zionism.
I sat my white ass down and I learned. I listened.
It's nuts. It's actually insane. And like to expect normal people to be able to comprehend the depth of this conflict is not reasonable at all in any way whatsoever. So like anytime I use it, it's calling someone who is just outright.
Yeah, like we talk about, we always say Nikki Haley Zionist, right?
Yes.
But I've just changed to saying ultra Zionist.
Okay. Next step up.
Yeah, because like Zionist, it really doesn't mean anything.
No. Where ultra Zionist is like the guy that we had on the Mehdi's show, right? Ultra Zionist. Like wipe them out.
Yeah, Likud. That guy is a
right?
Likud. Likud is even worse than ultra Zionists.
Yes.
Because like a lot of the ultra Zionists don't like Netanyahu.
Interesting. That's very interesting. It's weird how things work.
I believe Israel should take the entire Palestinian territories. Or
that's how dictatorships work. They all Israel is run as a dictatorship. They even like literally he somehow wound his way back into office because he was able to sabotage Israel into not being able to form a government, right? Because you have to negotiate the consensus parliament to form the government. So because they couldn't form a government, he somehow got defaulted into de facto leadership. Like
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, even though he's like literally like a criminal who's like has multiple charges against him, and Israel's constitution says the president can't be charged of any crime while in office.
Gotta love that.
Right? So it's just like how Trump wants to get elected to make sure he doesn't go down.
Yeah.
It's self-preservation.
Sounds about right.
It's like Joe Exotic.
I believe Israel should build more settlements or things I don't believe. So Zionist in this context.
Here we go. Yeah, pretty much. It's just calling them nationalists.
The thing is, I don't think nations are bad. I think states are bad. I think nations are much different. Nationalism.
A Jewish statist. There you go. Jewish statist.
Yeah. So like, and that's what it is. It's like they literally will always say, not the nation. They'll always say the Jewish state.
Yes. They do. Yeah.
So, but like nationalism and then romantic nationalism are also two different things. And like, even I'm not saying I'm like pro Kurdish nationalist, right? Because like I have friends who are very Kurdish nationalist, and like even to the point where they don't like other people and they just are, it's for but they still want to pursue, like they have every right to pursue their own state, as nationalist. But like it's a lot different than white nationalism, which is more romantic nationalism. There's levels,
which
right?
Is a bad one. Yeah.
Like nationalist also doesn't really mean anything, but when we say nationalist, we always mean a certain type of nationalist. Just like how whenever we say Zionist, we mean a specific type of person, which is now, and like what's funny is Ukraine, and like Euromaidan, they like condition us to say ultra Zion or ultra nationalist, not to say fascist.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah.
They like so like when we were reporting there, they were like they're ultra nationalist. And I always thought it was weird because it's like, just say why not? Why are we playing this game?
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Some people care. People like Steven Crowder.
Text tells us.
Oh, come on, Steven
Crowder.
Does Steven Crowder care about
tell you
Azov Battalion?
I'm against.
Look, probably. I imagine he's probably spoken about it. They
saying
all
like
have.
they're racist. I want to see if he's saying like
Yeah.
accusing them of
Look,
racism.
here's
and shit.
1,000 people. All 44 million Ukrainians are fascists. It's
Yeah,
just
and
like
then even
Palestinians.
then,
Look, here's
like,
Hamas. All Palestinians are Hamas. You know,
like
it's
it
that thing.
intersects with white nationalism, right?
Mm.
But like
Mhm.
Ukrainian nationalism is a far different thing than like ultra nationalism in Ukraine. And then even then, the ultra nationalism is still more of an intersection with white nationalism than it is just pure white nationalism. It's very weird.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of
The
places like
illegal
that.
settlements in the West Bank. I want to stop the Gaza blockade. I want all violence to stop. I am an opponent of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party at just about every step. I don't believe Benjamin Netanyahu will ever be an arbiter for peace. I don't believe Hamas will either, by the way. So those are my
Who
views.
says
But
they
again,
were?
I've been called a Zionist and it's been used as an insult. And my positions have been called stupid. Okay.
Got mad at me when I said that before, but like literally, he's literally like taking the worst possible positions on this. Apparently, his
he won't name any of the positions.
Community is going after him for it too, because like, yeah, it's getting increasingly unpopular to be just like a bloodthirsty psychopath when it comes to the ongoing destruction of the Palestinian people.
There you go. I'm a bloodthirsty psychopath, and my own community has turned against me. So listen, in terms of my community turning against me, you know, I've talked about a bunch of people canceled memberships. More people started them. We have more of a following on every platform today
Who
than
gives
we
a shit?
ever have in history.
Who
The
cares?
show is bigger today on every platform. And we have more members.
This is screaming insecure.
But a core part of my audience that has always been there has criticized me, even though we're bigger than ever. This guy is so weird.
Oh, why?
You know he's Argentinian.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
One of
today
those Europeans
than we ever had
in Argentina, huh?
Very interesting. I wonder if he's friends with Bad Empanada.
You're a tiny businessman.
You evaluate whether my community is turning against me. And you know, when we start hearing stuff like bloodthirsty psychopath, I consider those ad hominems. I would love to get a list of the psychopathically bloodthirsty things I've said. So there's not much to respond to. I'm not going to do any ad hominems on Vaush. I'm trying not to engage in this stuff. I'm trying to just demonstrate, look, here's an attack.
You're just desperately
It's not
insecure. Desperately insecure that you need to make a 10-minute video defending yourself, even though if
you get his audience fired up to go attack Vaush, I think.
Yeah. And even though if your positions really weren't that, you wouldn't even need to defend yourself, and defending yourself makes you look pathetic.
Yeah. It's just weird.
It is
also
weird.
like
it's a very weird video to make.
What are you, crystal ball now? You know? Kind of no, they see what you know what they say, scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds, right?
It's true.
He's a lib.
He's a lib.
Substantive. It's ad hominem.
Libs will always justify something.
Yes, always.
Psychopath, stupid opinions, etc. There's no substance for me to respond to. And people can judge for themselves whether they think these are reasoned critiques or not. I'm disappointed in Vaush. I am. But I'm not going to respond.
Oh no, you're disappointed in him. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't even think about you.
Yeah. This is a funny thing about libs. They think they're the center of the world.
Like, I need to give a perfect PR response.
In kind, I have no interest in ad hominems beyond there is very little substance there. Here's the bottom line. I'm fine being disliked. This is my new, it's sort of been my New Year's resolution, but I made it like 6.5, 7 months ago. I was on a particular trip and I read a really interesting Japanese philosophy book called The Courage to be Disliked. And I've really revised my...
When was this book written? Was it written by someone who was a fan of Hirohito? Jesus Christ. That could be so bad. There's so much. Oh my god. Oh, that could be absolutely fine or hilariously bad.
I bet you it's a modern book though.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's like some self-help book, but there's a chance it could have been like an older book.
My views on a lot of things. Not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. And in particular, people.
Congratulations, you figured out the lesson that you
I've
learned
only
at 17
seen-
years old.
Okay, here's an article from 2018. But I'm not seeing anything like that goes far back, right? So it's got to be a modern book.
Okay.
People whose views are so different than mine, like it's not super likely socialists are going to like what I have to say about a lot of things. That's okay. We can all exist. We don't have
Japan's
to resort
biggest
to ad hominem.
bestseller is
Sometimes
philosophy book on the courage. It's not on the courage to be disliked. It's just take the on out of here. I know this is an article from 2018, but yeah. So it says 2018 is when this article was written. So that's when it came out.
Yeah, that's because he's
That's because he
making
read a book.
I don't care. Believe me, I don't care. My opinions are
Not
actually
mad,
this. I'm
guys.
defending
Trust
myself.
me, not mad.
Definitely not mad. No.
Not
Don't-
coping. This
definitely
is not
don't go
cope.
on
I am not
Brigade
making a video.
Vaush.
I hate this. I don't like ad hominems.
It's so
Zionist is
transparent.
not an insult.
but we don't have to. And I am going to continue making an effort not to stoop to the ad hominems, to keep doing my thing. And I think the show is going to keep growing. By the way, we're down to our last 14,000.
Don't care. All right. I think we're done.
Well, that sure was a stream. That was a fun one.
That was a good one.
That
tuning
Steven
in,
Crowder
everyone.
video. I'm
That's
gonna
a banger.
like somebody find that girl and send her our reaction to it.
Yeah, please.
The fact that like remember when we pulled in Emma and like now we like have such insight on all these people talking about the military ad.
It's so interesting that everything changed once we talked to her. And if you haven't watched that episode, go watch that episode. There's two.
Well,
They're
one
really
is
good.
specifically about the ad.
Yeah, the first one's about the ad. The second one is about what she wants to do afterwards. So, yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm fucking better than you.